Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here. Hopefully everyone had themselves a pretty good weekend. Mine was quiet but sunny. Today's a beautiful sunny day. Still got myself a cup of coffee though, and going to be having a nice chat with you today, as promised or threatened, depending on how you look at it. We are talking about wrestling, and I mean pro wrestling. We're going to have ourselves some fun taking a look at those things. But once again, I'm going to go over and hit that like share button. Hopefully, you'll do the same and let everybody know that we're on. And, everybody come and join us and have this fun conversation. Now, like many people in certain parts of the world, of course, you grew up with wrestling as a kid because at least in my lifetime, wrestling is really kind of a kid's, a young man, entertainment type of thing, and that's great. I had a lot of fun as a kid, but the interesting thing for me was, as a kid, you're just kind of awed by it, you're entertained by it. But as you become older, you start appreciating the technique of it, right? Because we all know it's entertainment, of course, but it's a very physical and demanding entertainment. And I've always, as an adult, I appreciate the techniques and things that they do. From something as simple as making sure that everybody's safe, which they do really well, to something as innocuous as the Flair flop, right? Which he was an absolute master of those kind of things. But all those things are very, very entertaining, but they're also very interesting from an adult point of view as to how these guys go about doing what they're doing. But nevertheless, we're going to get into that today. So I got all this set up. Hopefully, I will get someone come in here and join me and talk about it with me, but we'll see how that goes. All right, got all that done. Very good. So today I'm going to get into, a little bit of the history of wrestling and where it comes from, as well as what's going on today. And of course, we'll get into a bit of nostalgia as well. One of the things with wrestling that's very, very interesting is you can find it throughout human history. And it's one of those interesting things that we've always seemed to enjoy. Now, the idea of this kind of slick TV entertainment or even stadium entertainment is, only we've only got a couple hundred years of that. But excuse me. But I'm sure as you go deeper away from the TV to radio age to not, you're getting more and more physical and more realistic, I would assume. But we do have wrestling going way back. The Egyptians wrestled. Of course, the Greeks and Romans are famous for their wrestling. We still do that in Olympic sports. Most all the Asian groups had wrestling. Some of them, like the Turks and the Turkish peoples, they do wrestling, but they oil themselves up to do it beforehand. Don't know why, but I guess make it more difficult, as if it wasn't difficult already. But of course, the Mongolians picked that up from the Turks for in more recent times, and of course the Japanese have sumo, which they've been doing for a long, 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 long time. Of course, the interesting thing with that type of wrestling here in Japan, with the sumos, is it's actually more of a religious ceremony, oddly enough. I know if you ever seen it, you wouldn't expect that, but it really is a religious ceremony. And the rikishi, or the sumo wrestlers are considered gods. Even today, they still kind of treat them that way, even though it's not as serious as it used to be. But So that's a little bit different take. Wrestling as a form of religious devotion or religious ceremony. That's not normal. There are a few examples of that elsewhere as well. But Even in the Americas, we have some wrestling histories and things that they do. So wrestling is certainly something that's been around with us for a very, very long time. And I don't know. It looks like I might not be getting co-host today. That's okay though. I have things set up. So let's see if he said anything here. Oh, he's going to be there here in a few minutes. He said. All right. Cool. 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 All right. Let me bring all that back up then. I'll wait for him to come in and just chatter about stuff. Now, when I was a kid, I can't remember. I was down in the South, First time I experienced wrestling, I think. I'm sure I must have seen it on the TV, but I didn't pay attention to it. But because I moved around a lot, right? But when I was in the South, I remember is when I first saw it, and one of the first characters I remember seeing was the Von Erich family, which is they're both amazing and horrifying in their story. But another one was coming out of the Mad Max 2 or Road Warrior, and it was humongous. And I don't know if it's probably wasn't the same guy, but they had a guy dressed up like him in the ring. So I don't know what that was. I don't think it was WWF or WCW. I think it was AWA maybe, or I don't know. Back in the day, there were many, many, many conferences, right, across America. And then Vince McMahon went about buying everything. And ultimately, he did in the long run. And you can't take anything away from the dude. Vince McMahon brought wrestling to what it is today, plain and simple. Conversation done. But I do kind of miss the fact that there aren't as many well-known wrestling conferences as there used to be. There are
Yeah.
actually lots of little wrestling groups, and they usually do in like high school gyms or other little locations. But they don't they're not easy to access for the general public, and I think that's a shame. But in one way, in another way, I don't think it is. But first of all, hello, Thundero.
Hola, senor. How is Chester the Busby doing?
I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day. My wife only has a half day. This is Golden Week, so we got a lot of time off. I'm working still, but that's me. It always seems to be like that, dude. What's up with that? But she's got a half day today, and then I guess she's got most of the week off. But my kids, or at least one of my kids, is coming back. But I got my lovely wife here next to me. She's been beautifying herself.
Oh, aw. Well, that doesn't take much work.
No, that's right. I'll tell her. You said that. Thunder says
Yeah.
it doesn't take you much time to beautify. Aw.
That's
He says so. We thank
Chester, do
you.
you see why older women love me?
Yeah, I know. I have the same problem. Damn it. Anyway, but yeah, no, things are well. How about you?
Well, I had an extraordinarily productive today as far as like doing chores around the house. I got many, many things done.
Mhm.
Hung multiple things that needed hung.
Yes.
Um, just various chores were accomplished that needed done, and that's good. I like that on a Sunday. That's a good Sunday. So yeah, good day. The weather's been doing this thing that it likes to do where it's not raining, so it'll get real cloudy and get that that cool pressure in the air like it's about to rain,
Hmm.
and then it'll sprinkle just enough that you don't want to be outside in it, and then stop. And it'll do
Yeah.
this every 20 minutes or so that you can't really enjoy the outdoors unless you want to get wet. Uh,
Right.
that's been the weather here, because somebody forgot to give God the memo that we're in spring now, and we don't need it to be 40 degrees and raining all day every day.
It's just a long winter. They happen, right?
Yeah,
Every now
just
and
don't
then.
want it
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. But I don't have it. I never get winter where I live. But I did live in Mobile for a
where I
while,
get.
and well, I'd rather have winter. And when I was in Mobile, uh, or Pensacola, the thing that was interesting about it was every day around 12, 1 o'clock, you get 10,
It.
15 minutes of rain, right?
Hmm.
Every day. And then when you had rainy days, it was a monsoon.
Yeah,
And I don't mean the
yeah,
good one like a gorilla.
like the old gorilla himself.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, yeah, no, we see we have a saying around here: "Don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes, it'll change."
Yeah.
Uh, and that's exactly how it is most of the time. It's so bad that I don't. I try to, I try to keep up with the weather reports. But if they tell me it's going to be a 10% chance of rain, I'm just okay. It's going to rain. Because I just know. I know they're wrong. It's going to rain. Or the one day I walked outside, it wasn't supposed to get any rain at all. I walked outside. I said, "Yep, here it comes,"
Here it
and it started
comes.
hailing,
Oh yeah.
hailing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, they called this. It was supposed to be nice and sunny." My point is they have no idea, especially around here, because I live right in the middle, effectively, not in the middle, but between the two of the Great Lake. Well, three of them really, but two definitely.
Mhm.
And that causes what they the lovely little thing they call the lake effect, and that lake effect can do all kinds of havoc on the weather.
Yeah. No, they do. Bodies of water tend to have those effects, especially if you have multiple ones near each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. And when you have these long winters like this, because the winter is hanging on, you have those northerly winds, coming down. But
Mhm.
the sun is still doing what it's doing, and the Earth is still getting closer. So the warm weather is there, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
So it always creates these weather fronts, which
Mhm.
creates, snow, rain, hail, tornadoes. These
The
kind of
old
years are the
twister.
worst tornado years, these ones.
I've been in technically three personally that I've actually been in, like, it went over me,
Yeah.
tornadoes. I've been around multiple. I don't even know how many. But one year when I was at like a summer camp type thing, freak tornadoes ripped through, and this was like in August, like early August. Freak tornadoes ripped through up in northern Michigan, and it was a they were twins, so sisters,
Mm.
and it ripped through. We were in the gym, all the kids were freaking out, crying, but me, I was like, all right, this is fine. I've been in this before because a few years before that, I was down here and there was a big tornado when I was a kid that ripped through one of the big high schools around here and
Ah,
literally ripped right through the middle of it perfectly. Just ripped it right in half.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was pretty crazy, and I remember that tornado system. I was out at my aunt's, and my aunt, they own this property that has this big, almost a lake on it, but it's technically a pond, and a bunch of houses are around it, but they own most of it. And then to their other side of them is nothing but cornfields.
Ah,
And when the sky starts to get really, 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 really gray and dark, almost black, and those clouds get real low, and then you see the little things start to form out in the cornfield, that's a sobering thought. That's a sobering
it is.
realization that
It
you
is.
have just no power to do anything against that.
Oh, yeah.
Just get away from it. That's all you can do is stay away
Yeah.
because it will literally rip you apart.
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, tornadoes are vicious. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen all weathers, nature's wrath. I've seen it all, and uh, tornadoes are probably the most intimidating, I think.
yeah,
Um, but I'm one of those weirdos that likes turbulence on the plane, so earthquakes never bothered me.
yeah,
Hurricanes, I've lived through many. They're troublesome, but they're slow and long, right? But tornadoes,
right.
instant death, right?
Yeah, you're
It's
just
very,
done.
it's
You're done
you're
now.
done, yeah. And
Yeah,
I've seen many, but the two most interesting memories are, and I was a kid, of course. It was while my dad was in the military, or with the government, I guess, at that time. But we were driving down the road, and there was a tornado pacing us parallel.
it's how terrifying is that? You're like, oh, well, okay. There's death over there. I'm
Well,
just gonna watch it because
yeah.
that's all I can do.
Well, as a kid, I thought it was cool because it was fat. It was keeping pace with the car, but it was parallel. It didn't
Oh man.
intersect with us. So, but that was an interesting moment. The other one was I was looking out my backyard, the screen door, and
Yep.
we had like everybody in that project, or what let's call it a suburb, I guess, had an acre of land, right? And they were all kind of,
Mm,
wedged together like a pie amongst each other, creating this gigantic center area, and there were
yep.
many of them. And one of the houses on the other side, so 2 acres away, right? um, a tornado formed right over the top of them, and then moved across the field. I went out and watched it, and we had on the other side of us a swamp, and it dropped in there and started its little journey, right?
Yep.
But I saw the whole process of that thing forming, and luckily moved whatever few hundred yards over the top of us and then dropped, and the noise is what's interesting about tornadoes. I mean,
Oh, it's so
hurricanes,
loud.
they're so loud. I mean,
It's
hurricanes are loud, but a
oh
tornado is like a freaking freight train right inside your house,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's
And I was like I said, when the sisters went over us, we were all in this. They had this big gym at this summer camp, and it was a solid steel building and everything. So it was the safest place to be at this camp, and that's where we were. And it did damage to it, but didn't rip it apart or anything. Like we all obviously I survived, but it went right over it. And so I'm inside of a metal building with obviously bricks and stuff too, but a metal roof and everything. And it was so loud you couldn't even hear yourself breathe. Like it was
Yeah.
so I can't even describe it. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it's like a
like if
train
you've
right
ever
next to you. Yeah.
yeah, if you've ever stood right next to a speeding train, not just a train, but a train that's cooking, it was like that, but it was above me. It's so terrifying.
Yeah.
I have this weird, I wouldn't say it's a phobia, but it's a weird caution when it comes to weather phenomenon.
Hmm.
Because of where I grew up, I had it especially like I was, grew up out in the country and stuff. And, if, like you said, a tornado comes and you're not ready for it, you're dead. Like it's just that
Yeah,
simple.
no, it's no joke. Yeah.
There's, yeah. So I have this like extra cautious nature about it to the point where I'm like, I pay very close attention to the color of those clouds, even though I'm colorblind.
Hmm.
I can tell if a cloud is a tornado cloud potentially or not.
Oh, sure.
Uh, and it's just something you have to learn that a lot of people in a lot of places even in this country have no idea of. They don't even understand what they're looking at. Like I walk outside, like it's not going to rain. Clouds ain't heavy enough. Oh, that's going to rain. Like I just know because I've studied it because I had to. Like you have to know that when you live out places that are far from civilization, you don't have people to watch that for you and to
Sure.
flick sirens if a tornado's coming.
Yeah, no, that's true. Your skin knows when the weather's changing, though.
Yeah,
But one of the best test tornadoes I know of is the Texas Twister himself. But he's a fan of Von Erich, so he's slightly less dangerous.
that's true.
But
And I think he's dead.
they
I think
probably
he's
think they
dead.
all are. That's one of the
All but one.
we
All
talk
but
about a
one.
lot of tragedies in wrestling, and I'm sure we'll get into that today. But that family, dude,
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah,
dude. I
that
mean,
was a rough that's a rough one.
it's really
Most of
bad.
it was a
Yeah.
little bit before my time, but I've heard the stories, and all I can say is somebody had some they had a bill that came due because my lord, did
Yeah,
that
no.
family get just ripped apart.
Unbelievable. A lot of people, the first thing when they think about wrestling families and tragedy, they go to the Hearts, and I understand
Yeah.
that, and that's fair. But no, the Von Erichs is a way, way more horrific and sad story,
Yes.
because they've all been lost to drugs and various
Suicide.
problems, suicides and things like that. And I grew up with the Von Erichs. I'm the exact perfect age for them, right?
Yeah.
And all those kind of non-WWF wrestling league conferences and leagues that existed before Vince McMahon went on his tirade. Um, and I'm not saying that was a bad thing necessarily, but I saw all different kind of wrestling, organizations. I didn't know one was better than the other. I was just a kid.
Yep.
So yeah, the Von Erichs are pretty sad, but it brings up, and I'm going to switch over here to talk about the wrestling now, but it does bring up a conversation that needs to be had about wrestling, and I wish it didn't, but it does. Simple fact of the matter is, large numbers of wrestlers don't make it out of their 40s
For
or
sure.
their 50s.
Or their 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And that
it's ridiculous.
is a serious problem
It is.
with contact sports in general, but wrestling seems to have honestly the worst of it, like per capita.
Well,
Um,
when you look at a lot of
it's a shame.
these, well, it is a shame. And you look at all of these jobbers, right, that are that are out there. These guys will work 250 days a year, right?
Or more.
They're on the road. They're constantly moving, and there's got to be a psychological aspect to it as well because they're jobbers, right? They
Right.
know they're never going to get a run. They're never going to get anything, right? They're just making money. For some people like me, that would be enough. But I'm sure there's a lot of ego in wrestling. Then you put on
Oh yeah.
top of the alcohol, the drugs, steroids, hormones, and this problem's been going on a long time. Every year we lose wrestlers. Every year, right? And it's just I haven't really not going to I'm not going to dwell on that today, so I didn't put together a list for it. But the number is staggering, staggering, especially those who died around 49, 52. It's you know
Hmm.
how in rock and roll it's 27. Well, in wrestling it's around 50,
Yeah.
right? And so many dead, dude. We just lost a couple recently. This year, we've lost a couple.
Mhm.
But it's a real problem wrestling. And to be fair, you know, a lot of wrestling groups, including Vince, have tried to acknowledge it. But the problem is they can't really attack it
Yeah.
because it affects the bottom dollar. Because these guys are trying to create these physiques that don't exist in nature, right?
Yes. Well,
Um,
it happens to bodybuilders a lot too, right? A
yeah,
lot of these bodybuilders are keeling over in their late 30s, early 40s to their 50s, and it's just because they've been pumping themselves with all kinds of growth hormone, and the
right.
heart just cannot take it.
They
It
can't.
just
No.
can't do that.
Well, it's like Lex Luger, right? Lex Luger was part of that because a lot of people might not know this, but way back in the '90s, Vince McMahon had created an alternate sports company for himself because he himself is really into bodybuilding, and it was
Yep.
a bodybuilding, league that he put together, a show that he was trying to make. And when all the steroid stuff came up in the court hearings that he was going on during that time, he decided probably better to just drop that, and he did. But he did bring Lex Luger over from it because that's where Lex Luger comes from. He comes from a bodybuilding thing, right?
Mm.
And he brought him over to. He thought he'd be a perfect replacement for the aging Hulk Hogan, right? And he was called initially they called him the narcissist, I think, and then they tried
Yep.
to turn him into some American thing or another. But yeah, so the connection has been there a long time. Luckily, when I was a kid, you did have the Von Erichs. They were bodybuilders, right? But we also had a lot of kind of normal body wrestlers, and if you go into the '70s, back in the '60s and beyond, they're very, kind of portly men, really.
Yeah.
But still
Well, they were
doing
built
amazing things.
normal.
Yeah, they were
Some of
normal
the
build. Yeah,
like there's the wrestler's physique, right? Which
yeah,
people will talk about, especially old timers, where they all kind of look had a very similar build to them,
yeah,
and there's a reason for that. That's basically what your body can do naturally, without going too ridiculous. Um,
yeah.
you're gonna have, especially a guy if you're in your 30s and your 40s, you're probably gonna have a little bit of belly on you. It's very, very hard to keep a super tight physique as your body ages because you lose testosterone. And so that's what happened. That's why a lot of these guys are built that way. Plus, if you're an actual wrestler, there's a certain build you want to have anyway, where you
Right,
have a really heavy middle,
right,
because it gives you that nice low center of gravity. You're harder to toss around, stuff like that.
right. Extra weight for
The
you to be tossing. That's true. Yeah,
Yes, the
and
guys from the 80s on though, especially, and really it started in the late 70s, but
it
especially
did.
those 80s guys, they wanted superhero bodies. They wanted to
Yeah,
be like comic book characters, effectively, ridiculous physiques.
which is what it is.
And it is
Yeah.
you can do it. It's physically possible, especially with the aid of chemicals, to do it, but not forever. And
No,
these people who think you can, there's even bodybuilders who in their 40s have great physiques, and even they'll tell you like you can't do this stuff forever. You're going to kill yourself.
it's true.
Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
true.
exactly what happens. They push themselves too hard, whether it's through the in ring work or the gym work,
Hmm.
and their bodies just can't take it. Even guys like Cody Rhodes. Cody's not a big guy. He's I think 6'2", probably 220.
Yeah, he's
He's in
juicing
great
though.
shape,
He's juicing. You know he is.
probably.
Yeah.
But even guys like him are going to have this same problem if he is. He's not a huge dude, and he's in this right now, especially he's in the best shape I've ever seen him. He's got a full six pack. He's all
Oh yeah,
vascular.
it looks good.
He's
But he's juicing
yeah, he's
without
jacked.
question. His brother, however, still is freaking phenomenal, shocking.
Yep,
And he's never done it, right? He doesn't have the
yep.
prettiest body. But he's
Look more like his
arguably one of
daddy.
the well, he's arguably one of the greatest living wrestlers we have. Dustin Rhodes
In the
is
ring, I
no
would
joke, dude.
say
No joke.
probably, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we'll get into that. But before I start, I do want to kind of talk about the transition because that's what gets us into what we're going to be talking about. And Thunder already mentioned it. Because when I was a kid in the '70s, watching, starting to watch wrestling, is when that transition happened, right?
yeah.
And the transition brought two things, and I don't know that either one of them were necessary, but they're still with us. One was the sculpted body. I
Mhm.
literally saw the introduction of Hulk Hogan, right?
Right.
the Von Erichs, all that stuff, the British Bulldogs, all those kind of guys who were just bodybuilders, right? Arnold
Mhm.
Schwarzenegger, all that stuff happened during my childhood, right? And the other thing that it caused, which I don't, I don't mind the look. I mean, I could care less, I guess it has this appeal to it. But the other thing it created, which I don't like at all, is before that transition, nearly you had a few freaks like Andre or things like that that were just
Mm.
interesting novelties, right? But in
Right.
general, all those guys were wrestlers. I mean, wrestlers, and you'd see a
Mhm.
lot of technique during a match, right? And some of them were really, really good at it, and they could, because these guys are working together to put on a good show and not hurt each other most of the time, unless
Cool.
they're shooting on each other or some receipts in play. But in general, right? And when the big guys came in, and a lot of those bodybuilders, they can't. A lot of them, especially in the beginning, they couldn't move right well.
Yes. Too
Hulk
big.
Hogan is an amazing promo worker. He's one of the
Mhm.
best, right? I mean, meaning on the mic, right? He had great ring entrance, great ring gimmicks. I mean, he's Hulk Hogan. But would you ever say that Hulk Hogan was a good wrestler?
Well, as far as like technically, no.
No,
As far as the entertainment part of being a wrestler, because being a wrestler is technically the technical stuff is part of it, but you
it
also
is.
have to be, like you said, the showman.
No,
As
I
far as
agree.
that, oh, absolutely, he's a great
Yeah.
wrestler in the showman aspect, probably the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, but
Uh,
think of Dusty Rhodes, Papa,
yep,
right? Now
yep,
this guy he was an ugly fat thing. But
yes,
he's one of the most amazing mic workers. Have you ever seen him in the ring? That dude was
yeah,
freaking awesome the way he
he
could
was light,
move. He was light,
yeah,
dude, even though he wasn't. And Dustin has continued that, even though he's much bigger
yes,
than his father, much taller. But I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of that transition. And unfortunately, today we have a big chunk of wrestling is still that.
mhm.
And I'm just never a big fan. Like
Well, it used to be full of, especially way back in the day, even before your time, it was full of legit people. Like these guys were
legit.
actual
Yeah, yeah,
wrestlers
yeah, yeah.
or fighters or whatever, and they just went into this because you can make more
Harley
money and not have
race.
to get
Yeah.
your ass kicked, literally, actually every night. Uh, so they switched over, and it was so to varying degrees of success. Like you said, Harley Race is a good example. That dude was maybe the toughest man to ever live.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
he was just a freak. But so they had most of them already had that actual athlete combat sport body that you can still see in a lot of combat sports today. A
Mm,
lot of the guys, a lot of the best guys aren't they don't look like Hulk Hogan. And none of them do, in fact. They look more like a Seth Rollins or a AJ Styles. They just have these naturally, these fit physiques. They're fit, obviously, they're in really good shape, but they're not, they're not Hulks.
right.
Because that first of all, to gain that much muscle, you have to spend a lot of time in the gym, whether on steroids or not. You got to be in there a lot.
Oh yeah.
So if you're
You got
doing
to do
gym
the
work,
work. That's true.
yeah, you don't have time to do fight work, right?
Hmm.
Because you have to also get in the gym, the other kind of gym, and put in reps that way. You have to have your strikes be solid and your
Hmm.
boxing and your stand up and your all this, depending on what kind of fighting you're doing. But that takes time as well. And there's only so much time in the day. So one of the main reasons why the best heavyweight in the world right now, maybe the best ever. I don't think he is, but maybe Tyson Fury. He looks like a slob, but he's actually really fit. He just
Hmm.
doesn't care about the aesthetic of his physique. He
Hmm.
cares about making sure he can box, so he does.
Right.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Whereas pro wrestling, because it's such a show, they leaned into largely this is a Vince McMahon creation.
it is.
They leaned into that aesthetic more so than the actual technical work. And in fairness to Vince, the aesthetics do matter.
They do.
And he's been so successful for a reason
Hmm.
because he's right. It's just there has to be a point where you're like, all right, that's enough. Where it starts to become, crazy for somebody's health or whatever. It has to be a point where it comes. So back to Hulk Hogan. After Hulk started losing some of his bulk because he got off the roids, and he stopped, working out like he used to, probably because he just couldn't because he wasn't on steroids anymore and he was getting older. He went over to Japan and had some matches over there that are fantastic. He
Yeah,
actually
no,
could work.
I've seen him work
And
before. No, I have. That's true.
it was largely one, he didn't have to over here. He could do so little to get the crowd on its feet. And two, I don't think he physically could have done the same things. He just couldn't move. He was too bulky, too
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
was.
think about it. When you're 300 plus pounds, whether you're muscle or not, it takes a lot of energy to move that body. A
It
lot of
does.
energy.
And we have examples of the perfect balance of that. I mean, Randy Orton is the quintessential wrestler.
Yep.
When you look at his skill, of course, he's a legacy as well. But
Yep.
as far as his skills, his body weight, and his musculature, he's the perfect wrestler, really, for
Hmm.
modern time, right? And whether you like him or not, I mean, he is the quintessential. Yeah, I think he's the
Smooth.
ideal, right?
Yep.
But and because he's not that big, but he has the right amount. But anyway, I do want to get into it. And yes, Dave, you're jumping the gun, sir. Of course. We all know this because he's a perfect example of the old and the new. But let me go ahead and get into this. And well, no, he is. There is no argument in that regard. But let me do a little spiel here, and we'll get into the conversations about it
Uh-oh.
if you don't
We're
mind.
spieling,
I'm
everybody.
spieling.
Here comes the spiel.
Well, you guys know how I am. I made a statement last week that we're doing wrestling, so I spent all my free time
Wrestling.
this past week researching it.
Uh-oh.
You know how I am. You know how I am, dude.
I did send out invites to a whole lot of people, but our boy Grimlock is working. He's working Sunday evenings now, apparently. Uh, I didn't get a chance to reach out to Ben, but he was in here when we were talking about it, so I figured he would show up if he could. And then there was a couple other people who said they'd probably show up, but I haven't heard from them. So
Well, Ben
we'll see
probably
what
would be a little
happens.
bit later. He does
Yeah.
have fatherly duties around this time, but maybe in 30 minutes or an hour, he might show up. But anyway, let me do my little spiel here, and then we'll get into talking about it. Spiel number one, anyway. Okay. So
Uh-oh.
um, now I started my research wanting to catch up on what's going on recently because I haven't really been as much into wrestling in the past so many years as I used to be. When I
Mm.
was a kid, of course, I watched it, and when my son was old enough, I got back into it. So I kind of missed most of the Attitude era, to be honest with you. And I watched it with my son. He really enjoyed it. And then when he left, I kind of got out of it, and wasn't watching it as much. So I did a lot of research to kind of catch up, really. I know the old stuff. I don't need to really, I already know that stuff. So I made a mistake, though.
Uh-oh.
I know it's rare, but I did. I made a mistake. I didn't start with a WWE. I started with AEW.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that was a mistake.
that was that was a mistake. Um, because this is like the junior league, is what this is, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I thought it was, because it's Ted Turner, right? And I
Well,
figured,
his
with Ted Turner,
networks.
well, no, he's got money. I know some of these guys are getting paid more money than they were getting paid at WWE. They're
Oh, for sure.
poaching them, right? They're paying them more. So I figured, for knowing that, I figured, okay, well, we're gonna have some good stuff going on. My God, dude. Now there are some good wrestlers over here. Let's not play around. Daniel Bryant, or Brian Danielson, which is his real name. That's a real
Yes.
wrestler. Another
Yes.
one who's a good old fashioned good wrestler, even though he's not very old. I think his name is Kenny Omega,
Yep.
right? Uh,
He's the one that was over there forever in Japan. That's where he made his name.
I see.
Was in Japan.
Well, let me get off this
Speaks
flipping screen.
Japanese
Just
and
go to the
everything.
roster. Yeah, no, I don't know his history, but that's a wrestler. That's a real deal. Okay. This Wardlow is exactly what we're talking about. Is the Vince McMahon wrestler.
Yep.
He has a couple of moves, I'm sure, but he's more look than he is actual technique. I didn't see much of this Maxwell Jordan Friedman, I think it's his name. Um,
Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Jake, I was close. But I didn't see much of his wrestling. It looks like he can do a little bit. Maybe he's a really good wrestler. I don't know.
He
But what
is.
I do know is he's freaking phenomenal on the damn mic.
Yes, he is.
He is
He is
phenomenal.
the next great promo. He already is. a great promo guy. He's that guy.
He is that guy.
And when
That's Ric Flair.
he
That
has
no,
this
no,
idea.
that's Roddy Piper is what that is.
Yes, yes, he's probably the closest thing you're going to get to the next Roddy Piper.
Yeah,
He has this idea, which he'll never be Roddy Piper. Sorry, Max, but you just won't. He
yeah.
was the best to ever do it. It's not close.
This guy's good though.
Regardless,
He is good.
he is really good.
Yeah,
He is very, very good in the ring. He just doesn't wrestle very often because as a heel, he doesn't, he plays up the heel thing where he doesn't want to
right.
wrestle too
Well, because
much.
he's
But
better on the
also
mic.
that, and also he wants to make it when he wrestles it matters. He doesn't want it to be,
Fair.
which I understand, and I think there's good reason for that. And plus, since he's a bad guy, it also makes sense that he doesn't wrestle very often because bad guys, even though back in the day they used to, since the TV era has really taken over. If you're going to be a big bad in wrestling, you're not going to be in the matches all the time, right? That's just
No,
how it is.
and that's fine. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They
but
need
no,
him on the
he's
mic
really good
anyway.
in the ring. His
Um,
match with Danielson at their last pay per view was a Iron Man match, and it was one of the best Iron Man matches that's been put on in a very long time. It
that's
was
good.
very good.
Yeah. But just saying that the dude has skill. And one of the other mistakes I made was I watched Dynamite first before watching
Mm,
Rampage. That was a
mhm.
mistake. Wow, dude. Because one of the things that Rampage has over Dynamite in that regards, a huge important point that a lot of people don't take into account, but it's so obvious. Seriously, go watch a Dynamite match and then go watch a Rampage, the hour, entertainment show, right? Go watch
Mhm.
it. And what the reason why Rampage is certainly better is because of the commentators. They have the
Yes.
legends over there.
Yes.
WCW, WWF, they have legends over there. And it shows you dramatically how important they are.
Funny.
We
It's
don't we
funny.
don't think
Chester,
about it much.
the reason why that's funny is because the main complaint that most of us have, because I want AEW to be awesome. I want it to actually
Sure,
be a competitor. I
of
want it to
course.
succeed. I don't want it to flounder and die. But one of its biggest problems, maybe its biggest problem when it comes to its show right now, is its Wednesday night commentary team. They're terrible. They have no chemistry,
Dynamite.
none. And yes, and their guy, their lead guy, that Excalibur guy, who used to be the second guy to JR, who used to be on Dynamite, but as he's gotten older, they've shifted him to the other one. Um, is horrific. He's horrifically bad.
Yeah,
Like
they're really
I've been
bad.
watching wrestling literally my entire life. My first non-family related memory is Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. That is a fact. That is the truth. So I've been watching this stuff my whole life, and I can tell you without hyperbole, he is the worst main announcer I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well,
He is terrible.
they are, and it shows you how important they are. They're very important, and they know it because one of the episodes I watched, they had this MJF guy out there as a commentator, stirring shit.
Yep.
And he was so much better. For me, it's like
Yes.
you just make him a commentator.
Let him commentate other people's matches.
I mean, that's what he's good on the mic. The guy's good on the mic. This Orange
Well, he's
Cassidy,
Jewish. Makes sense.
that may be.
Um,
But this Orange Cassidy guy, he's a dancer and a gymnast, and that's fine. We get plenty of those in wrestling. So whatever. But let me go. Let's go through this arsenal here and talk about it a little bit. The ones that I recognize. Adam Cole, he can wrestle.
yes.
Page, of course, is he's a legacy wrestler, of course. So you would expect there's some
Oh no,
talent.
he's not related. He's not related to the other pages.
Are you
They just
sure?
there's just a lot of yes. There's just a lot of dudes on their roster with the last name of Page for
I
some
just
reason. I have
assumed.
no idea
I just assumed. Let me come through
why.
here because a lot of this, there's nothing to be said. There's nothing to be said.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, there's a couple of them I want to mention here. But here's the thing that caught me when I was watching it. I was like, why are they so slow? I was like, why are they
Yes.
so slow? And then I
Yes.
realized that yes, it is here or there. Some of them are faster than others, of course. Well, what I noticed what the problem was, they're not selling.
Correct.
That's the problem. They're
This
not selling.
this is crazy, Chester. You said, you haven't watched wrestling really in years, right?
Really.
Not
Yeah.
really.
Years, yeah. Yeah.
Your very first time you watch AEW, you immediately know all the actual problems. That, my friend, tells me that it's not just bias coming from me or other people or like your Jim Cornettes out there or whatever. These are actual problems that
They
they
are
need to
problems.
address, but they're just not addressing. That's
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
my main concerns, main beefs with modern wrestling in general, but AEW is the worst about it. Is it looks like a play. It doesn't look like a fight. It looks like they're obviously they are. It is a play,
Yeah.
effectively.
Well, it's a
Obviously, they are working
theater
together,
trope. Yeah, that's true.
but it shouldn't look that way.
No, it
It should
shouldn't.
look like a fight. If I can tell that it's not a fight, then it's what am I doing? Why am I watching this? This is boring. It'd be like watching a movie and they just turn the green screens off. Like what?
Right. No,
Oh,
that's a good analogy. But like for instance, this Bandino guy, he's
yeah,
definitely got some skill, but the problem is they don't work enough together. You can tell they're not
yes,
doing the during the week practicing with each other enough to make it smooth. They're not doing it. You can see it. And but it's just they're not selling properly. It comes off very slow and awkward. Some of the stuff. Let me get to the guy I was thinking of. We know that Brian can wrestle, so this guy is fine. There are good points in here. This Butcher guy is a
yep,
good old style, kind of like a Road Warrior type
yep.
wrestler. He's fine. But there are a couple in here I wanted to mention, though. Let me see if I can find them real quick. One was a big old Japanese boy, and this one here, Darby Allen. Now, Darby Allen,
Darby.
they keep introducing him as 175 pounds, my ass.
Yeah. He's a 140 if he's
He's
anything.
140, if anything. To be fair, he's a dancer, gymnast type of a wrestler, and there's nothing
Yep,
wrong with that. That you can make that entertaining for sure. But the problem with this guy, he's one of their big dudes. People clearly like him because there was people who
yep,
had his face paint and they knew all his expressions and stuff like that. But the problem with this guy in the ring, I don't have much argument, right? And he's very professional too. I saw several times him doing things to make sure the other person was safe, right? Because
yep.
as an adult, you recognize these things. So I have no trouble with his in ring at all. But his promo work is ass.
Yes. Yeah, he can't
It's
talk.
pure ass. How is that going to be when you're top dudes? Because they want him to be, you can tell.
Yeah.
But he's
Well, you can get
absolute
away
ass.
with it if you can give him a mouthpiece, someone to talk for him.
Right, that's why they do
But
that. That's why they do
yeah,
that. That's what a
yeah,
manager is for the dummies
yes.
that can't talk,
I
right?
really like Darby. I think Darby is one of the few small because a lot of their roster is really small guys, and he might be the smallest of the
He
lot.
is teeny, yeah.
But he doesn't wrestle that way. He throws himself around like he's actually trying to hurt this dude, mainly because he can get away with it because he's so small. But it looks so much better when you do a dive to the outside and you actually hit than if you just touch,
Right.
right? And
And
that's
he's
how he
easier to
moves.
catch
He
too.
moves with purpose.
He's
Yeah,
easier
yeah,
to
yeah.
catch.
Moves with purpose.
So yeah, I have no trouble with his in-ring work at all. I'm just
Yeah,
saying his mic work is ass. However,
it's bad.
juxtaposed him, you have Dustin Rhodes, arguably one of the best guys in the business right now, and he's an
Yeah,
old man,
yeah,
but he's
yeah.
so
Mid
smooth.
fifties.
I saw him wrestle from like last week's match. Damn, Dustin. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I'm shocked that he's still going so well, dude. I really am because he's an old dude.
A lot of
He's
people.
my
He
age.
probably is, to be honest with you, because he had such a problem with drugs for a while. He probably is.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, he's about your age, and yeah, he can still go. It's
he
there's a
can
reason
go.
they called him the natural. He just it's literally in his blood. He's
It is.
just can do it.
It's
He's
amazing.
one of those guys.
And the other one, there was one other one I wanted to talk about. Of course, Jeff, obviously, but for some
Yeah.
reason, someone is giving his brother the mic. Haven't you learned? Matt Hardy doesn't get a
Uh,
mic. Matt Hardy is freaking that stupid purple dinosaur. Don't give him the mic. Nice to see
Barry and
Jeff,
Barney.
dude. You don't give Matt Hardy a mic, dude.
You
Give it to
want to know
Jeff.
how bad modern wrestling is? One of their best workers is Jeff freaking Jarrett.
Wow,
That's where we're at. Where Jarrett's at like near the top of your guys when it comes to work in the ring and on the stick. Jarrett can talk.
he can.
Uh,
I saw him do work, and
that's
he's
not
actually not
good.
bad. He's still okay. He's okay. He's
Yeah,
old man tired
especially for
wrestler.
his age.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. But yeah, it's not bad. Moxley, I think he was part of the Shield over in WWE.
he was.
He's he's a real deal. We don't need to talk about him. This. Kenny Omega is the real deal without
Yep,
question.
and
Juice
he's
is
pretty
trying to
good.
be mankind. You are not worthy, sir.
Were you talking about Konosuke Takeshita, the
Yes,
big
that's what I
Japanese
was
man you
getting
were
to.
talking about?
Now,
Yeah, he's good.
I don't understand. You
Oh,
have a lot of good Japanese wrestlers. You don't understand. In
that's
America,
true.
if you're in a good wrestling conference or organization or in a gym, they will push you, they will hurt you, right? Because they want to
Yep,
make you not only capable of ring ready, but also make sure you're ready to be able to help each other. That's a very important thing. These guys are on the edge of injury at any moment. And you
yep,
need to be able to react very quickly to help each other and keep each other safe. It's a very big part of it. It's something that the crowd should not see, but is
right.
happening. It's the only thing on their mind, right? So if you're lucky enough to be in a really good gym and you're serious about it, they're going to work you over, right? And as they should. But here in Japan, that's a given. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter what gym you go to here in Japan. They're going to work you over hard. I
mhm,
mean, raw, they're going to bloody you. No joke, right? That's the Japanese mentality. So you have so many to choose from. What the hell is this guy doing anywhere near a TV screen? He's awkward. He's slow. He's awful. He's awful. And the problem is,
he's
I'm going to WWE here in a minute, and there's another Japanese who's also awful. But anyway,
yeah.
I don't understand why he's anywhere near a camera.
Kenosuke is a friend of Kenny Omega,
Okay.
and
Well, there you go.
he was big in one of the I think the company's called DDT in Japan. He was pretty big over there, including their champion. And that's how, basically.
All right.
He knows the right
He
people,
knows the
and
right
they
person.
brought him over, and they're really big on him for some reason.
He's
I
ridiculous.
agree with you.
It's
There is
ridiculous.
Japanese if you want a great Japanese wrestlers, they exist. They've wrestled for them with crossover promotions and stuff. This guy ain't one of them.
No, there's plenty of great Japanese wrestlers. Some are legend, like
Yeah,
Muto-san, or we when
yeah,
I was a kid, he was the great Muta,
yeah.
right? But his name is Muto. Here in Japan, he's an old retired guy, but you see him on TV all the time as a
Well,
guest.
he just retired.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
this year,
no, but for
officially.
years I've seen him. He shows up on just
Yeah,
variety shows. Has nothing to do with wrestling. He's an icon in Japan, and
he is.
rightly so. By the way.
Yes, yes. He's one of the most successful transplants, right? He
Yeah.
might be the most
Oh
successful
yeah. Oh,
besides,
he's amazing.
Asuka, a chick. Uh, yeah, he was the guy who kinda made that a thing, where they would try to really come over here and attempt it, because he was able to come over
Right.
here and get in main event situations, um, and largely no one else has ever really done that. Even people who are huge in Japan, they just don't click with the Western audience for various reasons. A lot of it's just language barrier.
It
But
is, and
Muda
they're
found a way
awkward.
around that. He found a way around that by being so physically charismatic that you just
It
had to
just
watch him.
insane. The Great
Yeah,
Muta was one of his best incarnations, I think.
yeah,
But he's had many. And Asuka, the girl you're talking about,
yep,
I think there's even a documentary about her coming up, right?
yep,
Where she's crying constantly. They literally broke her nose like 10 times or something like that in
yep.
in gym. And it was a Western documentary team that was just mortified. It was kind of one of those 60-minute things that is like, this needs to stop, and the Japanese just laugh. That's how you make a wrestler.
Yeah.
That's
That's how
how
you
you
do
make a
this.
wrestler. That's how you do this,
Yep,
right? You're
yep.
either cut out for or you're not. Because the simple thing is, we know it's entertainment, but you have to be a tough bastard to do this
Oh yeah,
because you're banging about, you're taking bumps
it
constantly.
hurts.
It hurts. There's injuries that come up. At least every few years you're going to have some kind of injury. These guys are constantly getting surgeries. You have to be tough and be able to. But the most important thing, the thing they're really looking for, is can you be dazed in your head and still look out for the guy who's about to break his damn neck and jump in there and
Right.
and do something entertainment worthy to actually save his ass. That's what they're really after. That's the ultimate goal, right?
Yep.
That's the first thing, and then entertainment. But this guy, fuck off. All right. Uh, It's not good, dude. We
Oh,
got Mark over here, which I didn't see any hiding or hair of him. Matt Hardy, I don't mind Matt, but he shouldn't be given a mic. And honestly, he
yeah.
shouldn't be in the ring. His legs, his hips went out
Oh my god.
freaking 15
It's
years ago, dude.
painful to watch
It is
him walk
painful.
around. Just
Just
walk. I'm
walk.
like, "Oh,
Yeah,
brother,
yeah, it's
just chill
nuts.
out. You have way more than enough money. Chill
Right,
out."
right. He could probably be a coach. I mean, he
Yeah,
does
if
know
they'd
the
listen.
business, right?
Yeah. He's the
Uh,
brains. He really knows the business.
yeah,
He
yeah.
always
I don't
has.
know what the hell that is. I don't. But we'll move on. Here we got a guy who's done way too much juice. But anyway, my point being is, it's nice to see Big Show still getting paid. It's nice. But
Yeah.
the simple fact of the matter is, I went and looked at this first, and it's really not good. It's really not good. The Rampage is better because the commentators are these guys are legends and they handle their shit still, right?
Mhm.
They do have Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe is the real deal without
Yeah.
question. He this is what a wrestler looks like, right? Traditionally, and the guy well, his
Mhm.
his belly to belly is one of the quickest snaps in wrestling. Still,
Mhm.
I saw him do a belly to belly from a episode from a few weeks back, a month. I don't know. It was a little, but not too long ago. And he was in the ring working as usual, and he pulled off one because he likes to do the belly to belly, suplex, right?
Mhm.
And dude, lightning fast,
Yeah.
still beautiful,
And a big old
beautiful.
boy. He
Big
can
old
just
boy.
move.
Just snaps that shit, dude. Like Randy Orton still today, he'll snap a suplex
Mhm.
on you like nothing. So fast, so clean. And that's better too. The thing you don't understand, it looks more violent and dangerous. It's better for the camera, but a quick suplex is the best way to do it
It's
because you have less
it's
injury.
safer.
It's safer.
Yep.
Yeah, it is
Yep.
safer. But anyway, the roster, first of all, way too big. What are
Yes.
you? They're not. This, and I don't even need to talk about this shit. I don't even. Um, uh, uh, but
That's the
let's.
right word for their women's division.
It is
Holy
shit.
crap, is it
Well,
bad?
but you also have a problem with me personally. I don't like to see women in violent situations. I
Yeah.
just don't. I'm not going to sit here and argue whether they should be doing it or not. Of course, if they want to do it, go ahead. I don't care about that. That's not the point. I'm not interested in it because I don't like see women in that kind of situation. I just don't. But let's look at this team. This is important, I think, right here. First of all, you have Taz. Yep. You have Jim Ross. Yep. 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 Right. So I don't think we're going to have Jim very long, but he's still giving it. He's still giving
Yeah.
it. This guy, this Excalibur guy, fuck off. Fuck right off.
Yeah. I love it so much. I love it so much. Yeah, I can't stand him. A couple weeks ago, I made a wrestle channel in the Discord for us to talk about wrestling, and I posted like basically that what I said earlier, that he's by far the worst commentator I've ever heard.
He's horrible.
I don't even understand how somebody can be this bad at their job and still have their job, other than he's friends with the right people. Uh, because it's just terrible. Like he won't allow moments to just happen. He has to try and butt in
Yeah.
and talk over them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, just shut the hell up.
Shut the hell
If you
up.
don't have anything productive to say to increase the emotional investment of what I'm watching, then I don't want to hear you say it when I'm watching it. The
Right.
good thing about JR, one of the reasons why he's probably the best to ever do it, is because if he jumps in 9 times out of 10, he's adding to what you're seeing. He's giving you an emotion, he's giving you a feeling. He's trying to get you as the viewer to feel what he's projecting onto you by saying, like, like back in the day when he used to call Vince McMahon a son of a bitch, right?
Right.
Something like that.
Well,
He's
because he
trying to
was.
get you to agree with him.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
trying to be your voice and get you on board and tell you a
Yeah.
story. He's being a storyteller. Excalibur, I don't know what he's doing. He's just talking.
He
Like
just,
somebody
it's
told him to
weird.
go,
Yeah.
no empty air time. You got to say something. So he just starts saying something, and it's so terrible. It's terrible.
It is terrible.
There's no pulling me into it. There's
Yeah.
no getting me emotionally invested. There's no making me care because I promise you, you start screaming like JR about Stone Cold back in the day, I'm gonna pay more attention to who you're screaming about. I
Right.
guarantee it. Just
Yeah.
as a human being, that's natural. You're gonna
Well,
be drawn to that.
Flyprox Pro mentions that Nigel McGuinness is a decent commentator. Well, he didn't stand out to me, so that's a good thing. right?
Yep.
The Alex Marvez guy, I mean, but the only thing, the only real hook he had was "you prick." That's about all he's got. I mean, that's it, But at least on Rampage they got Jr. and Taz and that team around them. That's smooth. That's smooth, right? It's smooth.
Yep.
But I mean, you got the legend, literally the legend Jr. And I didn't even know he was still alive.
Yes.
So I was happy. Just what? What? That was
Yeah.
a blast
Good
from the
old
past.
JR.
But he's
No,
so good
here's
at
the
it, dude.
biggest problem with AEW, and it sounds like it's even with the commentary, is all of the younger generation. I don't want to say all because I don't know that, but a lot of the younger generation compared to like your Jim Ross generation and stuff, they don't want to listen. You have guys like JR, you have guys like Tony Schiavone, you have guys even like Taz who have done this
Oh
at
yeah,
a top level for a very long period of time. I know a lot of people don't like Tony Schiavone for some reason. I've always, when in WCW days, I always liked him. I always thought he was fine. Um,
he's with
I
Jim.
wasn't as good as
He's with Jim on the
yes,
Rampage
he
show.
wasn't as
Yeah,
good as
that's a
JR was,
no, but
but he was fine.
they're a good
Um,
team. They're a good team together.
But my
Yeah.
point is these dudes have been doing this for a very, very long time. They're as close to masters as you're going to find. I'd say Jim Ross is a master, and the fact that Excalibur isn't at school every day that he can with Jim tells me a lot about Excalibur's character and his arrogance. And there's a lot of guys like that. So they have Brian
Well,
Danielson, like you said, maybe the best active wrestler going, like on a full time
he's a
basis.
solid wrestler. He is a solid
He's
wrestler.
so
Yeah.
good, and from what I understand, only like 3 or 4 people actually get in the ring and roll with him, and, he lets he teaches, like, a little
Well,
class with a few people every Wednesday.
they
Why is it
can't.
not the whole damn roster, is
Well,
my
they
point.
right. No, as far as the working, because
Yeah.
in the ring live they can't. They're too awkward.
Right, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably put Kenny Omega in there with him, and some of the ones like
Oh,
him,
they have,
they'd have a
and it
good
was
role.
great. Yeah.
But I haven't seen it, but Kenny Omega's a real deal.
Yeah.
And there are of course a few others we know is a real deal in there.
Yeah.
But it's really, really bad. But then when I did was I was like, wow, wrestling's gone to shit. So then I went and watched WWE, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, dude, smooth,
Yeah.
fast, slick, every aspect of it, absolute top end, dude. And I was like, whew, thank God, because this is what it should be. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
happy that WWE is that at least we do have high end pro wrestling still going on. Now, the fact that you have a big guy like Roman Reigns and he's a little more fluid than say Hulk Hogan is, but
Oh, yeah.
still, I much rather watch a real wrestler personally.
Yeah.
But I understand why, and I like the fact that they got the Samoan Brotherhood and Tribal Chief thing going on. That's
Yeah.
cool. It's finally we given the Samoans a little bit of love. I mean, they've been a backbone of wrestling literally for what 50, 60
Which
years.
is basically their storyline that they have going, right? Is that their family, especially that specific family that they're
Oh
all
yeah,
from,
yeah,
have just dominated wrestling in every territory and every company forever, basically, since wrestling's been a thing, just about. And that's kind of what the Bloodline storyline is about. And like that's the subtext to it
I get
is
it.
that this
Yeah,
family is dominant,
that's cool.
and Roman is dominant. He's been champion for 3 damn years, so
Sure, but
that's
you know
pretty
what I'm
dominant.
saying. He's not my favorite type of wrestler.
Yeah, no,
He's
he's not
not.
mine
He's
either.
not.
Well,
He's much more Hulk Hogan than he is Bret Hart, right?
yes.
And whatever, people like it. Cool. I have no problem with it. The guy seems to be a complete package, so good for him. He's good. He's got good kayfabe going on. He's got good gimmicks going on with Superman Punch and stuff like that. Once again,
Right.
I've never been a fan of that kind of stuff though. Like Hulk Hogan's, and another one is Shawn Michaels. He had his, tuning up the band thing, his gimmick.
Yeah, loading his
But
foot.
that guy could wrestle
Yeah,
all day, right?
yeah,
Even though he's an ass, a real life ass, not just a heel. But then you got like John Cena. John seems to be a nice enough fella, I guess. He does what he's told. He
yeah.
seems to genuinely care about kids and stuff. That's awesome. So I have no problem with John in particular. But he's not a wrestler though. right?
No,
Not for
no,
me. And there's a lot of guys like that. That's the Vince McMahon effect, right? And Roman is part of that.
no.
But fine, whatever. He's a good example though, and it's fine. But there are some really good workers going on over here, and I was very happy to see that. This Gunther guy, old school. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Thank you.
yeah. Give him every title he needs, just all of them.
Right.
He's amazing.
I hope these two guys, these no, these aren't the ones. There's like some Viking guys,
The Viking Raiders.
the two Viking guys. I hope they
Yep,
work hard and keep working hard because I'd love to see a Road Warrior type return, right? And none of that
yep.
demolition crap either. You know, actual Road Warrior, right? Because those guys were some of the that's probably the best tag team of all time, right? As far
Yep.
as their ability to move. The Usos are great too. But then again, okay, get up to at least Uso level, please.
Yes.
So there's potential there in those guys. But I did take a little bit of time looking, and I was much happier watching this than I was AEW. To be fair, AG Styles, real deal.
Yep.
Okay, God, what, why? Okay, let's see here. Apollo Crews, I'm not a fan of that kind. Well, once again, he falls into that other category, right?
Yep.
Let's see here. Oh, come on now, give me some. Biggie,
Well,
I've never been a huge fan, but I'm happy to see him successful and his New Day group, and they're fun. They're very kid friendly, and that's one thing that WWE has become. They always were, but they've really leaned into the kid friendly stuff, and that's cool. I have zero problems with that whatsoever. What they should
mm.
do is reenact ECW though. They should put it ECW together, put it on one day of the week, and make it a little bit more for bloody and grindy for the adults, right? But I
Be
don't have a
nice.
problem with the kid friendly at all. So I'm
Oscar was up there. That's the one you were, I think, looking for that you went over. He's
I
up, up,
no
up,
no
up.
no no okay Big E. So Bobby Lashley, of course, an actual wrestler, real life
Literal
one.
freak of nature. Yep.
And he brings value for sure. Booker T, I'm assuming he's commentating.
Yes.
Please. But he's the guy that can work a mic like no one's business. Bray Wyatt, I never liked his gimmick, but he is good in all aspects of wrestling, though. He
Yep.
is. Braun Strowman, just the big man thing, Big Show, Undertaker, that kind of stuff. Brock Lesnar's a weird in betweener. He is a gigantic man. He is power
Yes.
man. But
A
this dude
gorilla.
can wrestle though.
Yeah.
Don't
Now,
play around with Brock Lesnar, dude.
it's funny because Braun Strowman's right above him. I think, I don't know, about 8 years ago or whatever. They were in a Royal Rumble together, and Braun was all excited, right? He was hyper,
Sure.
and he hit Brock with a knee, I think it was, and actually got him. Brock didn't like that too much. So all you see Brock hit him with one to the gut and then one right in the side of the head, actual punches, and
Right.
tell him to slow the fuck down.
Well,
And he dropped that big man to a knee immediately.
there are ways to communicate in wrestling. That is one of them. But no, Brock is a strangely real deal. It's weird.
He's a super athlete.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you would expect he'd fall into the Braun Strowman, Hulk Hogan category, but he's a little bit of both actually.
yeah, he can work.
Bronson Reed, my boy, my boy. I like
You
this
like
guy.
Bronson?
I like this
That's
guy,
good.
Bronson Reed. This is a big man there who can move. He's Bam Bam Bigelow. Remember Bam Bam?
I do.
Yeah, dude, I like this guy. He's what you need. A big man who can actually do the work.
Yep.
And Bronson Reed is definitely that. I was surprised how well he moved.
I like his name too. It's a very wrestling name, and it's a good one. Bronson Reed. I like that.
Yeah, no, I do. So I like him. And there's a bunch of Brutus. Just retire that poor Tyrus. Um, I don't know
Brutus
all of these
Creed.
things. There's a lot of crap in here, but I'm sure they're all at the top of their game because Vince would not accept anything less. Now, Cody
There's
Rhodes,
Cody.
what the hell is going on with Cody? What is he doing?
That's a that's a good ass question. I'd like an answer for, but only WWE has that answer because I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Cody. Everybody thought they were going to crown him as their new face of their company, as the champion and everything, and beat Roman. Finally, somebody was going to beat him, and that didn't happen. So I have no idea what the plan is for Cody Rhodes.
And
And
did
I don't
he?
know if Cody knows
Is
anymore,
that
to
a
be
real
honest.
tattoo on his neck, or is that just
That's
a
that's
kayfabe?
a real neck. No, that's real.
Oh yeah, that's
That's
that's absolutely a real
yeah,
neck tattoo.
yeah.
What are you doing,
That was a real
Cody?
mis- That was a real mistake, is what that was.
Well, Cody's been put through the ringer by Vince so many times, though. In real life, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about kayfabe. That it's interesting that he's even back there. I'm kind of surprised he's not still over at AEW because they need a proper anchor because they don't have one.
No.
They need something. AEW, because I'd like to see it succeed too, but it's absolute ass. It's just ass. I don't know what to tell you. Fly Fox says, I stopped watching WWE a couple of years ago. I got tired of outcomes being so predictable and always against what the fans want. Dude, that's Vince has been doing that for freaking 3 decades.
Yes.
But the simple fact of the matter is, comparing the two, um, the WWE demands excellence. So if you put, because I never care about stories anyway, I understand a lot of people do, and that's fine. But if you put that at the story stuff aside and just watch the wrestling, dude, they're slick. It's slick, as it should be. I think they're
And
even slicker than they
actually
used to be, dude.
that's what I was going to say. That's actually kind of recent. The in-ring quality for especially their upper mid card to main event guys, has, thank God that Cena's gone, has gotten so much better than it was for the last decade or so beforehand. The guys they're just better. There's no other way to
Yeah,
put it.
it's
They're just better
smooth,
workers. Yeah.
slick, at wrestling as it should be. Once again, Bret Hart. Okay, the
Yep.
quintessential wrestler. But I don't know what the hell frickin' Cody is doing. But whatever. And I'm going through, and like I said, I don't know a lot of these people, but I
There
know
he is.
that. Well, we got Dolph, of course. He must be near retirement now, or at least a different phase. But I know they must be really good at what they do because Vince demands excellence, right? And you see it in the ring. It's so much better. It's night and
Yep.
day between WWE and AEW. AEW is like high school wrestling. It's not good, dude. Dolph Ziggler,
Well,
my man, I love this guy. He's
yeah,
one of the best sellers in wrestling history. I
yes.
put him.
Maybe
I put him with Nick
maybe
Flair.
the best.
I put him with Ric
Yep.
Flair. Yeah. Ben,
He's
are you
up
gonna yell
there.
at me for that? Am I gonna get yelled at for that?
No, I actually completely 100% agree with you, Rick. Nobody can put you over like Dolph Ziggler.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best.
He is the
So
That's
man.
literally his job now. He just gets people over. That's his only
you
job.
know, and he like I think Tondero mentioned that like he seems to really enjoy that, and that's awesome,
Yes.
right?
It
Like
is.
somebody he had his title run, and that was fun, and there was fans that were behind that and stuff, but like the reality is the sport needs workers,
It
right?
Yep.
does. Yeah.
And Dolph has always been very aware of that fact, and he works well within the system. So,
Yeah. He makes you look good. And you need those guys. You need the work. A lot of times, the workers are the better wrestler in the ring.
And
oh
he is
yeah,
paid very handsomely
I'm
for
I'm
his
glad he
services.
is because Dolph is the man. Although I'm a little bit terrified the fact that every year that goes by he looks more and more like the Heartbreak Kid, and that's not a good thing.
Well, not anymore because the Heartbreak Kid's bald now. He lost
Good.
all his
Well,
yeah.
hair.
whew, thank God.
I've
Uh,
always thought
But the
he's
one
like
I
a
want to
modern
talk
day
about,
Shawn Michaels.
yeah.
yes, the one I want to talk about is the one next to him there, Dominic Mysterio. This kid has done so well in the last year or so. He has grown unbelievably in the ring and out and on the mic, and I am shocked
Well,
because when he first came around, oh my God, was he bad? Now, granted,
yeah.
he was green and he was being thrust right into basically the main stage because of his
Right.
dad,
Yeah.
but he answered the challenge. A lot of these guys don't. There's a lot of guys who were legacy guys who get the chance because of it, and they just disappear
Right.
because they
No,
just
no.
can't hack it.
It's true because and you see it in music and acting as well. Just because mommy and
Yep.
daddy did something doesn't mean you can, right? It's true.
But
But
Dom
the
can.
one good thing about Dominic, I would say, the one good thing about him is that we understand exactly why Papa always kept the mask
Oh, oh, poor Dom.
No, Ray's a good-looking cat.
He is. He is good
Got
looking.
done dirty. He did.
He is ugly, dude. But no, you're right. I did see
So
clips, some
mean.
various clips of him. He is improving, and he's got the right father for it.
Yes.
Because right here below here we got Rey Mysterio, of course. No, that's
No,
not Rey
that's
Mysterio.
Dragon
Where
Lee.
is he? But Rey Mysterio, of course, is an absolute epic legend. The guy is too small to be doing what he's doing, and he's
But
he's
he
he's
does it.
paid for it, right?
Yeah.
With injury and stuff. But Rey Mysterio is an absolute legend. Drew McIntyre, actually an capable wrestler, actual capable
Yes.
wrestler. But they don't seem to be
He's
using
the
him right.
mystery. Exactly. He's the mystery. I have no idea why they can't find anything for him to do that matters, but they just can't. He's got every tool, especially Vince could want. He's big, he's muscular, he's good looking, he can talk, he can work. He's got
Well,
all of it.
I remember when he came out way back, because my I was watching with my son, and he
Yeah.
was. They kept, the kayfabe was that he was the heir apparent from Vince McMahon. He was going to be the
The
next
chosen
big
one.
thing, the chosen one.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Maybe attitude. I mean, a lot of these guys got attitude. I don't understand.
It
What are
was
you doing?
attitude. And then he got I think he requested to be fired effectively, and he
Yeah,
left. And when he came back, he looked like he does now. He got himself in crazy good shape, huge, and he has definitely a much better
he looks
attitude. He
better.
seems like a
Yeah,
genuinely good
better wrestler.
dude. I
Yeah,
don't. I it's again, it's a mystery. I don't
yeah,
understand why he's not doing more. Like
yeah.
what?
Well,
I don't get it.
Well, one of the things you just mentioned is attitude.
Yep.
And the thing that's a little bit surprising to me, if this were a real sport, now I'm not taking it away from the physicality. Obviously, we've been talking about it here for a couple hours, uh, but
Yep.
um, but it's a job. You're getting paid to do this job. You're part of a business. So why are you bringing any kind of real world attitude? I understand kayfabe attitude. That's fine. But real world attitude? And AEW, I don't know what's going on over there, but I guarantee you there's some actual attitude going on behind the scenes. I can
Oh, there's
see
a
it.
1,000% actual attitude. It goes back because you had it exactly correct that the youngins who haven't worked in a major production think that they're just hot shit because they got picked up by AEW, right? I mean, that's why they're having other more tenured wrestlers leave, like Cody and others, that they're not listening to them. Nobody's listening to
Right.
them. It's been brought up so many times by other wrestlers who are trying to help them, right? And so, like, attitude's definitely a thing. It is a much bigger problem over in AEW, where in WWE they've been around for so long and absorbed so much from the territory days that the pecking order is pretty well established, right?
Yeah,
And
Yes.
and
yeah,
and everyone knows their place. And sure, things happen, but that gets squashed pretty easily and pretty fast over there.
yeah. Well,
And
because
and
Vince doesn't take that shit, and he never
Yep.
has, and good for him.
That's true.
Because the simple fact is, I understand you want to get over. I understand you want to have a run. I get that. But not everybody's going to. It is going to get that. It's just the reality of
Right.
it. But you're getting paid to work. Go in there and work the best you can. The attitude, like you guys know more about what's going on in AEW than me. I just literally started researching it for a week. But all these things I'm seeing, you guys are telling me are real. So
Yes.
oh, a
AEW,
thousand percent, yeah.
yeah, and it's a shame because it would be, you got Ted Turner and he's dropping serious freaking money on it. So get your act together, get it together. What are you doing? Get some people in there. If those kids are being like that, get rid of them. There's plenty of people behind them, I guarantee you.
Well, the
Because,
guy who owns it, Tony Khan, that's his name, the guy who owns the company.
yeah,
He wants to be everybody's buddy, because he was a
no,
wrestling fan his whole life. So now he gets to hang out with some of his favorite wrestlers and play with his favorite human toys.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be the guy who fires people. He doesn't want to be, because one
I
of the
see.
big things about AEW when they started it, Cody was out here mouthpiecing about it, was it was going to be a place that is more respectful to its talent than WWE is. Okay, fine, but sometimes you got to fire people. Like it's just there's just no getting around it. If you're going to have a
Right.
business, sometimes you got to fire people. It's not necessarily something you have to relish, but you still got to do it.
Right. Well, so
And
he's
he
not a boss,
refuses.
is what you're telling me. He's not a boss.
Exactly.
No,
Yes,
he's
they
not.
need a
Yeah.
boss.
Well, because I did see him
Desperately need a
speak. I did see him speak a couple times, and I was like,
boss.
what's that? Right? What is
That's
that?
a
I
cokehead.
mean,
That's what
well,
that
no.
is.
If we go back to where Ben just mentioned the acquisition days, let's just call it that. Back in those days, Vince wasn't on the mic. He was behind the
Yep.
mic, and he would have kayfabe CEOs and stuff, right? To
Yes.
represent whatever feeling they went. He went got professional actors to do that job, and they did a pretty good job. And then the whole thing with the that happened with the several things, but the ultimately I think the screw job in Montreal, Vince realized, hey, I can be the ultimate heel, and then he stepped
Right.
forward, and he was right.
Yep.
So, but you need, Khan can own all he wants, but he needs someone who can actually be the face owner, and because he
The
ain't it,
balls.
he ain't it.
Yeah.
Well,
Eh,
it's worse than that, though. Like, I don't know how much you read into it, but some of these guys, he made them executive vice presidents, the EVPs,
Yes.
oh
right?
Jesus,
That was a fucking terrible idea. So some of
Yes.
these guys, it's not as easy as just firing them because they're within the executive leadership of the board because they're executive vice presidents. And we're not talking about guys like Brian Danielson. We're talking about the Young Bucks.
Yep.
Why are the Young Bucks EVPs in that company?
that's
It
weird.
makes no
It
sense.
does, and a lot of the commentary from the young, the promo work, right, from the young people, I noticed that it's so soft. It's
Yeah.
so. Can I say, is it been 15 minutes yet? Gay. I mean, this is male soap opera. Let's get it right.
Yeah.
That's what this
It's
is.
dripping
Uh,
with testosterone is what we
that's the
want.
whole point. The men
We
like
don't
it, and
want
the
it to,
women
Chester.
like it too.
I'm gonna nail it for you. We don't want it to be gay. We want it to be homoerotic.
Or that would be fine. Go that route.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's that middle.
Yeah. It's like you can tell they don't believe what they're saying. Is my point, right?
Right.
There's no passion in it.
What I would
And
do. What I would do is I'd take Monkey Boy, and I would take the Spanish God, and get them into a kayfabe homoerotic super love fest where they're kissing everywhere, and everybody wants them dead. No, I mean, so you're right though. You either do it or don't. Right?
It,
Don't half-ass
lean into
it.
it.
Yeah, don't
wasn't that
half-ass it.
Tyler Breeze? That's basically Tyler. Like the thing about Tyler Breeze, that was his like almost his whole gimmick, I guess.
Well, didn't he get kicked out of Saudi Arabia? Wasn't that the guy that Saudis didn't want him coming in?
Oh, there was a couple. Like there's a couple people who
Sami
had to
Zayn.
skip. Yeah.
Sami Zayn wasn't allowed in.
Sami
Same, yeah, Sami
Zayn.
Zayn, yeah,
Yeah, Zayn couldn't go. Yeah, that's a whole thing. So
yeah. But I agree with that. If you're going to do it, do it. It's very soft. It's not wrestling. And I understand. You say, well, we're going to try something different. Okay, it didn't work. Try again. But
Try again.
try again. But let's continue going through here. Edge, I don't know why. Okay, whatever. I've never been a big fan of Edge, but I respect the work. So I respect all these guys getting in the ring. Really, I never understood why the rated R superstar was ever a thing, but he is. So rock on, dude. Elias, I actually like this guy. He's a
yeah, I
heel.
like
Everybody does.
He's great on the mic. He's a great promo
Yeah.
worker. He's got his own style too. It's different, right? And he's pretty solid in the ring, dude. He's also really good at watching out for everybody's safety. If you pay attention, he's actually very
Yes.
professional. I like this
Very
guy.
safe worker.
Yeah, he's a safe
Yeah,
worker.
he's another one. He's one of these mystery guys that he's been there a while. He's over. The fans like him. He always gets a reaction, sometimes a crazy one, and yet nothing. They just don't really do anything with
And it's weird. And now Ellen Prince here, Vince understands. If you're going to go gay.
it.
Vince gets it. I mean, if you got to
Yeah.
do it. I mean, enjoy. This is one of the Viking guys. I think these guys, if they put the work in, dude, I think these two could be something.
Yeah.
I think
So
that
does
I can
Triple
see
H 'cause he
potential.
keeps hiring him.
Huh? Really?
So does Triple H because he rehired him after Vince fired him.
Yeah. No, I see. I see value in them. You just got to. They got to put the work in though. Finn Balor. He reminds me of who was that South African flyer there? What was his name? Well, he's a white guy, but he was from South Africa. He's a legacy kid
African
too, I
flyer?
think. Yeah, back like 10 years ago.
Ooh, you might have stumped me on that one. I don't know who you're talking about.
I
South
can't remember.
African
But Finn
flyer.
Balor's very much like him. And he's one of those dancing gymnasts.
You want to know who's to blame for AEW as the the primary mover of it is kind of Finn Balor, because where AEW was derived from was the elite guys, like Ben was talking about,
Bullet
and
Club.
they made their name in Bullet Club, and Finn Balor
Yeah,
started Bullet Club in Japan.
it's
Oh, did
true.
he? Okay.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and they still do the too sweet thing. Like, well, they
Yes.
abuse it. Like, let's just let it chill. Like, we don't need to do too sweet like too many
Sometimes
times.
it's okay if things just die, everybody.
Yeah,
It's all
Yeah,
right.
right.
it's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
we can
Um,
that can retire for a bit.
but I'm just saying he reminds me of that guy quite a bit. He's a solid wrestler. Let's come in. Gunther. Gunther. Ben, tell me about Gunther.
Uh-oh.
Gunther is just the greatest.
Yeah,
He's
that's
so
pretty
old
good.
And
school, dude. It's
here's
beautiful.
but like let's be real for a second, right? One of the most important things about the sport is that you need good
Oh
heels.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It is the easiest thing to be a baby face because you just got to say like meh, 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 like just but
just
like
don't be a douchebag.
yeah, you being a true heel
Brett
where you
Michaels.
get yeah or Roddy Piper was just the best heel,
He was
right?
so
Oh,
he's so awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so you need someone who can really be an excellent heel, and that is Gunther 1,000%,
But he
right?
also
Like,
can his ring work is great, dude.
oh yeah, and that's the thing is like if that's the most dangerous combination is someone who can do great mic work, get the audience either on their side or even better, get them really against them, or and be really good in the ring. Like
Yeah.
that's why I think like the Miz doesn't get enough credit because he might not be the greatest wrestler, but god damn, he's put so many people over
Yeah, no,
for
he's like
so
Dolph
many.
Ziggler. He's similar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
and they're both
he's
from Cleveland.
Yeah.
and he's he does safe ring work. People don't get injured with the Miz, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
And he has put so many people over his years working there that they have their careers and their runs because of him,
Oh yeah.
right?
No, you're right. You're right. He's just the goofy version where Dolph is the cool asshole version,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But no,
Yeah.
no, Miz is he's important. We need those. You're right. You're right.
Literally, Dolph's like Twitter handle is heel Ziggler, right? Like he understands
Yeah.
the role that he plays in this thing like better
Yeah.
than
He
anyone
knows his
else.
job.
Yeah,
He
he
knows
knows
his
his
Yeah.
job.
job.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Gunther is definitely a nice little fresh thing. I don't recognize him. A lot of times they change names. Remember how we had Mabel, and then we had Viscera, and then we had
Yep.
Big Daddy
Yeah.
V, was it?
Big Daddy
Oh,
V. Yep.
God.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean they change their names all the time.
Well,
So he
it's funny
might
you say
maybe I
that
have seen
because
him before. I just don't recognize him.
they did change his name. His name was his real name. His real first name is Walter, or Walther, as because he's Austrian. Um, but they changed it to Gunther right before they called him up. We still don't know why, because he was wrestling even in NXT under Walter. But
Oh, Gunther's
I mean,
better.
it's fine.
It was better.
It's originally, I guess the rumor is the plan is they were going to call him Gunther Franz or something like that, but they found out that that was like some high-ranking Nazi's name. So like,
Perfect.
let's not
Perfect.
do that.
Yeah. But when I first saw him, I thought that he was William Regal, that
He
had gotten
Oh yeah.
older and way better wrestler. I was like, good on you, William.
somehow got better in the ring.
But I was like, no, I guess it's not. But yeah, no, he's not young, but he's definitely something to look at.
He's in his
Uh,
mid-30s. He's still got a good decade in him, probably.
Humberto, put the mask on. Put the mask on. Okay. Ivar, of course, very nice, very nice. I appreciate to see some Viking stuff. I don't know why we don't get more of that. To be honest with you, there's plenty of us who would consider ourselves, well, pseudo heathens, right?
Mm.
And there's a lot of popularity with the Viking things, so you think of it more. But some of these guys, dude, stay off the juice, man. You're heading down a road you don't want to go down. Um,
Yep.
you too, lady. Well, let me see here. Oh my God, look at it. You can see it coming, right? Look at their body. Look at this guy's body compared to this guy. This guy is smooth,
Hmm.
healthy, and hydrated. He looks good. This guy right
Oh,
here is roiding the hell out of himself, right? The king, always eternal. Thank you, sir. Uso's awesome. These guys are old too, but these guys are, nothing more to be said. I am looking for one that I have not seen yet, though. But John Cena, yeah, well, whatever. He's gotten off the roids though. Good for him.
Oh yeah, he's way
Um,
smaller.
yeah, no, good for
Way
him.
smaller.
Let's see here. I'm not seeing the one I want. Oh yeah, this must be the other gay brother. This reminds me of well, no, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember, but there was this tag team that was really, 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 really good. Now the Road Warriors, I still consider them, either them or the Usos or the Samoan, whatever they were, to be the best tag team working, team in the ring. But there was a really good tag team group way back in the day. Was it AWA or WCW? I'm not sure, but they were called the Rock and Roll Express, right?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And those guys were stellar. They're really good ring workers and they're good on the mic. And then Vince McMahon had the idea of copying that, which they do all the time. We see gimmicks copied all the time, right? And
Yep.
with one that worked fairly well with the Rockers, right?
Yeah.
Those guys were pretty good with it, but that was a complete steal, kayfabe steal, right? Complete. But then, of course, they gave you Shawn Michaels. Now, Shawn Michaels is an ass in the ring and out of the ring, unfortunately. But he is the real deal, though.
Yep.
He's the real deal.
He's
But
the head trainer for their NXT now.
good.
He's like the head guy in
Good.
charge down
Yeah.
there.
No, he must be Gunther's friend. Yes. Let's see who Luke Gallows. Let's see where I'm looking for one particular. I'm looking for because I know because what I've seen that Vince and Triple H or what have you, they must they're really concerned about high end skill in the ring, right? And so I'm
Mm.
sure all these people are very capable. But there is one I'm looking for. And let's see if I can, Mr. McMahon. Dude, why the plastic surgery, Vince? Just get old. God, he looks so creepy now.
What do you
That's like a
think? That's
that's like a
bad.
20-year-old picture.
Yeah,
Have you seen the most recent stuff with
it's
the
bad,
awkward
dude.
like dye job and mustache and
It's bad,
like
dude.
if he starts sweating, he's gonna start like just pouring like black dye all
He,
over his shirt. It's like
yes.
End of
weird.
life crisis he's going through.
Glad to see Paul still around. And I'm still not seeing the one I want to see. Damn it,
It's
Ray.
Randy
Can
Orton.
we just say LA Knight needs a good run because that guy looks good. He's great on a mic. He gets the crowd
Did
going.
I
LA
miss it?
Knight
Where is it? Where is it?
he needs a push.
You went past a big picture of him. Go back down.
This guy?
No, I think go no go down. No, you keep keep going past to her. There we go.
Right
He's
there.
right there, right there.
Oh, he's
That's
got the
LA
Oh,
Steve
Knight.
yeah.
Austin thing going on. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the he's older, so he's 40. He doesn't have a super long time in his career left, but he looks like a legit superstar, and he works the mic so good.
See,
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
one thing I would say, especially now, because we were talking about this earlier, Chester. The guys how they used to, jack themselves out, and they would be huge monsters and all this.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys aren't doing that as much anymore. They have
Well,
much more natural looking physiques, and they can
Right.
last a lot longer
the law
because
is
of it.
catching up, is why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have these guys, because like Ben just said, he's 40, so he's near the end of his career. I don't think that's true anymore. I
Well, that's
think
a
as
good
long
point.
as these guys take good care of themselves, I mean, Edge is 50, and this is probably his last year, he said, but he's still working
Well,
at a high level.
yeah, and as long as they're surrounded by professionals that are looking out for each other, you can have a long career. It's true.
Yeah.
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 But no, I don't know this guy, but he's cool. I love good wrestlers. But our truth, he's a good worker. Randy is the quintessential wrestler. I mean, he just
He's the
is.
man.
But
He looks
Randy, listen to me.
amazing.
Hold on, I got to speak through the ether, Ben. Give me a second.
Okay,
Randy,
go for it.
Randy, take off the goddamn mustache.
No, Randy, keep the mustache. It's amazing. Don't listen to him.
No mustaches,
Keep it.
Randy.
Keep the mustache.
No,
It's so good.
don't listen to this guy. He's
Don't
from,
listen to this guy.
don't no. That's how you can't tell me that looks good. He looks like a freaking pimp.
I
Well,
don't care.
he's Randy Orton.
Fair.
He's
All right, fair.
He's a viper.
Fair. But no, Randy is the real deal. Ray, of course, is you have to give props to Rey Mysterio. You have
Of
to.
Oh,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, the dude has earned every single accolade you could possibly give him. He's earned it. Ricochet, one of the better dancer gymnast guys. He's really good at what he
Yep.
does. Let's see, Rip Fowler, don't know him. Of course, Roman's their man. Ronda, please don't put her in the ring again. God,
He watched for a week. He's like, nah, no, that's good.
dude. I mean, she's not a wrestler, dude.
No, she
No,
can't do it.
it's really bad. It's really bad. I'm still not seeing the dude I want to talk about though. But like I said, Shane McMahon trying to follow on his daddy's footsteps. Good luck. Sheamus is in a lot of trouble because of domestic issues. Unfortunately, it's sad to see actually.
What happened? Domestic issues. I didn't hear about this.
His woman is accusing him of abuse.
Uh,
I
Lord.
just I you know how I am, Ben. I put research in this week.
I gotcha. I haven't heard
Yeah,
about it. I'll need
yeah,
to do some reading to see what's going
I
on.
didn't even know he had a woman, to be honest with you.
yeah. No, it's and who knows if it's true or not. I mean, these days, right? But it's
Yeah.
certainly not going to help him. Shelton Benjamin, yeah, okay, whatever. He's for me a mid
Is
tier
that who you're
worker.
looking for, Shinsuke?
Yes, yes.
You don't like Shinsuke? You're not a fan
I
of Nakamura?
cannot stand this guy. He's creepy. He's a creepy otaku. He's sloppy as shit. Now, why would you put this guy in the ring with all these slick guys? I saw so much slick wrestling coming out of WWE this week. And like I said, I was watching not that long ago with my son, but it's upped its game. It certainly has. Lots of great
It's better.
wrestling, good mat work going on, good stuff going on. Too much story for me, but I understand that's part of it. But this guy, he's sloppy. He's awkward looking. He's goofy. Why the hell is he on TV?
You want a hot take here?
Yeah.
90% of why Shinsuke is over is because of his theme.
What
Yeah.
is that? You mean his song?
Yeah,
His entry song? Oh yeah,
his
it is
intro
good
song's
song.
like
No, it is
it's
good song.
fucking fire, dude. But
It is good
like,
song. Yeah.
what is Shinsuke known for? He's stiff. Like
He's
he's
wicked stiff, dude.
yeah.
Wicked stiff.
But that's literally like his like they talk about it. It's like, oh, he has hard style, which is basically like, yeah, when he
Strong
punches people,
style.
he really strong style. And it's like,
Yep.
oh, so like, what is strong style? Oh, when he punches people, he really punches people. It's like that. Wait a minute.
We have a
No, that's
better
not.
word. It's called amateur.
It's like that's not a
Well,
style. It's like anyone
that's
can.
Japanese style.
Well,
They really beat the shit out of each other in some of those matches over there.
once again,
And in fairness to him, when he was in Japan, all the things you're saying, Chester, he wasn't doing. It's not until he got to WWE that he actually got worse.
I don't
Significantly
know
worse.
because I've seen way better Japanese
Oh, I do
wrestlers
know.
than this
I
guy.
watched him
Um,
at his peak in Japan when he was main eventing their big show, New Japan's big show, with some of the best wrestlers on the planet, especially at the time, because Japan was just killing it with the workers. And he absolutely it's night and day. I don't know
Wow.
what happened when he got to WWE.
Well-
I don't know if somebody got in his ear and told him he needed to change his style up. I don't know if he's just like, listen, I got fat paid. I don't care anymore. I don't know.
I don't know,
But
but he's ass. That's what he is. He's ass. And I don't
WWE
know,
Shinsuke is. I agree with you.
Mr. Nakamura, I don't know. I hate to tell you this, but your face does not match that hair, sir. Sir. But no, he's just so bad. He stands out like a sore thumb, dude. Amongst all these slick, hardworking wrestlers, he's just awkward. More importantly, he's stiff, like you guys said, which he seems to take pride in, oddly. But he's sloppy. A sloppy, stiff wrestler is dangerous, dude.
If I could step in for a second.
You can,
Uh-oh.
but you better not say the wrong thing because I'm on fire.
Well, I'm about to put a little water on it.
All right, you put water on it. I'm not going to
One-
listen. I'm going to get
one-
some more
one-
coffee. I need cigarettes too. You go ahead and so I won't yell at you. You can talk all you want.
If there's a one criticism, one major criticism you can give to modern WWE is that they have a pretty much homogenized style.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
all the ring workers have an expectation to work WWE style, regardless of what brought the attention of that particular wrestler to them. Like, for example, like you talk back in the day, you had a lot of wrestlers where you knew if you was getting in the ring with a particular wrestler or a tag team, you knew what you was in for.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
A beating.
you knew, like, if you was gonna work with Bret Hart, you had the easiest night of your life
Mm-hmm.
because Bret's gonna take care of you. Bret's gonna make you look like $1 million. Same with Ric Flair. If you get in the ring with Stan Hansen and the Steiner brothers, on the other hand,
Oh boy.
You better be
I
correct.
hope I hope that you spent a good portion of your check on icy hot and ice bags because them boys work stiff,
They're gonna hit you.
and it's not that they're trying to hurt you. That's just their style, and it like Thundaro said, Japan is especially well known for that because Stan Hansen was loved in Japan.
Yep.
He was because he would knock the unholy piss out of you.
Yes.
It's that kind of style, and the thing is, once you get to the WWE, no matter what kind of style you had that was famous for, you got to come in and wrestle a WWE style, and if you can't, you stick out like a sore thumb, or they don't know what to do with you. Shinsuke has that problem. Asuka has that problem. Some of the Hispanic wrestlers who was really big in Mexico and they came to the WWE and they had to do the WWE style match, it pretty much took away what made them special. So
Yep.
that's their problem. Like it's the same thing with Shinsuke. Shinsuke, when he was signed, that was a big deal.
Yep.
Like a lot of people was high on him, and Jim Ross was still, I think was still at the WWE at the time, and he said if they let Shinsuke be Shinsuke, he would have been one of their biggest superstars. Well, 6 years later,
They're
that
rebooting
hasn't
him
been
again.
the case.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything you said, but no. Okay.
Chester, what I'd recommend if you want to see Shinsuke not be crappy,
Yeah.
because in WWE he hasn't been great. That's I
It's
can't even argue
horrible.
that.
It's
Nobody's
horrible.
arguing.
Before he
But
came
see,
to WWE, when he wrestled for New Japan, he had a match with AJ Styles, which granted AJ Styles makes everybody look great, but this match was the one that they tried to recreate at WrestleMania a few years ago and it just didn't work. But the
I see.
match at Wrestle Kingdom was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'm not using that word because of AJ Styles. It was literally phenomenal.
So what you're telling me is he's gotten old, he came to America, started doing drugs, and it all went to shit.
I don't know if
Yes.
he's
No,
doing drugs.
Rock on. Yeah.
He's probably just came to America and he's like, you know what? They're gonna pay me whether I'm great or not, so I'm just gonna be okay. And that's what he just does what he needs to do to keep his job, basically.
Okay. Well, I mean, I that's fine. Maybe he is good, but I only experience I have was watching during this week of research. I watched a lot of shit. I've seen him before in Royal Rumbles because even though I don't watch weekly, I always watch the Royal Rumble. I do love that. So I have seen him
Well,
before. But just I don't know his old stuff, Grimlock. It's just from what I saw, he's
that's what I
really
was
bad.
trying to say before you decided to be a stubborn yank.
Yes, I am because I am. I'm a swamp Yankee, actually.
Swanky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a problem. He's not unique in that problem. You could go way back as far as Taka Michinoku, where those guys came over and they was famous for a particular style, and they come to the WWE and they're expected to work their style, and it doesn't work.
I get it. I get it.
So
The only one who's been successful at it, honestly, is Asuka. She was able to change her style up enough to be able to be multiple-time world champion. And honestly, besides Muda, because I'd say Muda was still a bigger impact. He's just older.
yeah,
She's probably the most impactful Japanese wrestler in North American history.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and part of it also, Mike, because this is not real like competitive sport, so they need
Right.
someone who they can work with. They need someone that they can work with, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe the styles are too conflicting. Maybe
it is another example. When the WWF back in the day decided to bring Bull Nakano to the WWF and found out there's only one woman on the whole roster who can work with her, so we got to see her versus Medusa 15 times in a row, and there was good matches because Deb can work stiff, but yeah, she couldn't work with anybody else.
and she knocked a girl out. Right in the
Yeah.
ring.
Right. There he is, Mr. Miz, the most
And
goofy, awkward, awesome dude ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Mikey.
Titus O'Neil. Top dollar. Dude, DiBiase cannot be missing, sir.
Well, don't worry. He's been a phantom for a while now. He's one of these guys who definitely shouldn't be in WWE. He needs to
oh, yeah.
go.
Now, I remember when Triple H came in, he was what was his name?
Hunter
Hunter
Hearst
Hearst.
Helmsley.
Hunter. What was it?
Yeah.
Hunter what?
Hurst Helmsley.
Hearst.
He was like this like aristocratic, like, you know,
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
basically, he was Chester.
He was me, yes.
Yeah.
And he came at about the same time as that guy, Rocky Manamapia. Yeah.
Yes, Rocky Maivia. Onomatopoeia.
So yeah, all right. That's another guy.
It's funny because Triple H brought his WCW gimmick, because when he was in WCW, he was with William Regal
Yeah.
and Dave
Which makes
Taylor
sense.
when they was in the group called the Blue Bloods, and he literally
Yeah.
brought that gimmick over to the WWF when he came in.
I see. Yeah, no, but Triple H later, when they kind of turned him into the Conan basically. But no, he's got one of the best entry songs ever,
He does.
right? And his
Yeah.
whole thing with
He's
the
one of the
spinning.
only wrestlers, Chester, with two. He has two.
Yeah.
He comes out to.
Yeah, no, that's right. He
Well,
does
3
have
if you
another one.
count
That's right.
Evolution.
And they're both done by the Motorhead. Yeah. But
Yep.
All 3 of them were done by you have The Game, King of Kings, and Evolution.
Oh wow, sweet. But Triple H is interesting to me because, like I said, he came out at the same time as Rock Dwayne Johnson did, similar time. And The Rock went over, and so did Triple H. But Triple H he's better in the ring. He's better on the mat. He's safer, much safer worker, and he's much more wrestling business minded. So enough said.
Clearly, because he took over the whole company.
Well, I'm just saying he is. He is. He should be the future. This guy is wrestling through and through. It's in his blood.
Yeah.
Rocky, I never understood Dwayne Johnson. I like, as an actor, I enjoy him. He's fine. He's fun, right? But as a wrestler, I'm like, why? It's like John Cena and him, same. I mean, they're good on the mic. Well, they're good on the mic, but it's like, what the hell, dude?
Wow.
Man, that
Rock is way. Rock is far more a smoother athlete than John Cena.
Well, maybe he's smoother. He might be smoother, but he has no technique. He has no ring skills.
He's not a technician. He's not a Bret Hart.
No, he's not that.
He's Hulk Hogan.
No.
No, and I'm gonna So Thunder, we're gonna argue with you on this one, and the reason I'm gonna say that is because like The Rock would put people over. He was always
he's not an ass. That's true. That is true.
Yeah. Well, and Hogan's always been an ass, right?
And we've learned a lot more about how much of an ass he was. I was talking about in-ring work is what I meant. I didn't mean character. Dwayne Johnson seems like a really nice guy, actually.
Nobody could make Stone Cold Stunner look better than The Rock. The Rock's selling of the Stone Cold Stunner was better than anyone else in the sport, right? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, he's the one who wanted to put over Brock Lesnar. So like, he's my counter to that is like the biggest problem with John Cena in his career, and he's better about it now as he's getting older and he wants to help put over the young people, but The Rock's always been so much better about putting over other athletes than Cena was when he was in his prime, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it was because when The Rock was in his prime, it wasn't just him as the guy. He also had Stone Cold. So there was like 2 guys who were competing for the top spot. And I think that kept The Rock a bit more humble in his position.
Kept him honest.
Yeah, kept him honest. Yeah. Cena didn't have that. And
that's true.
During his run, he was the guy for too long, and he didn't put enough talent over. And so I know what you're saying. He skill-wise, like from a moveset perspective, I can understand what you're saying, but I do think he is a better wrestler because there's more to being a wrestler than just the moveset than John Cena.
John's much stiffer than him. Hulk is much different than him. He also is a good
Right.
seller. You're right. I don't disagree with that. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for that because there is. Obviously, he's hugely popular. I'm just saying, me personally, I prefer the Bret Hart types. The Mr. Perfect types. I like the mat workers.
Oh,
Right?
that's
Well,
fine.
Yeah,
Those are
well,
very
it,
few and far between, though.
that's
well,
true.
I'll say this.
Unfortunately, yeah, yeah.
I'll say this too. One thing, me and Thundaros talked about this when it comes to John Cena.
Mm.
One of the things, and I don't think this is his fault. I just think this is the way things worked out. Where I don't think Cena was supposed to be the guy for that long.
Right.
It's
He
just the
wasn't.
way things played out because we kind of went through this timeline where like you have in a about 3 to 5 year period, I forgot what we said it was. Austin retires,
Right.
Rock leaves, Brock Lesnar leaves,
No,
Eddie
I understand.
Guerrero dies,
Oh, that was viciously
Kurt
brutal,
Angle
dude.
leaves. The whole Chris Benoit thing
Ooh,
going down. So
yeah.
you had like 7 legitimate main event dudes
Hmm.
at the least, just all up and leave at once,
Right.
and it just became like Cena became the guy by default.
And
Whereas, like you
yeah,
said, during that period, even though Brett was on the way out, he was still there when Rock first came in. Brett was there,
he was,
Shawn was there,
and he
Austin
helped
was
them a
there,
lot. He helped them a lot.
Undertaker was
Yeah,
there, Mick
yeah.
Foley was there, Kane had just came in. There were guys there.
Old Rocky Poo has been very upfront and honest even to this day to make sure that he's always what's the word appreciative of Steve Austin because he's very aware that there wouldn't have been a Rock without Steve Austin.
Oh
He
no,
would have
Right.
been big,
Steve put him
but
over
he would
huge,
not have
dude.
been anywhere near as big without
Yeah.
Austin.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm
And
not knocking on Dwayne Johnson. I like Dwayne Johnson. He seems like a nice guy. No, I understand all that. But I do have to say, Wade
Chester was
Barrett.
just trying to get me to rant about John Cena. I'm not
I know.
doing it tonight. You're not
Well,
dragging me into it.
Wade Barrett, dude, you look like Hugh Jackman. Good for you, sir. Um, uh,
Wait, they dropped the ball so bad with Wade Barrett.
they
There's
did.
there right
They
there.
did.
John
Yeah.
Cena's one of his prime victims, Wade Barrett.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
He
I
Yeah.
should have been a
understand that,
main event superstar for him, and John buried him to a point
but
where he could never bounce back.
but you got to keep in mind when these guys get in that position where they can actually have push, like Hulk Hogan. A lot of trouble Hulk made was because they needed him, and he could use his power to put other people under, and which he did a lot. And I think
Yes.
John fell into that trope, unfortunately. But you mentioned all those things. You got to keep in mind there was a lot of scandal going on, and one of the things that John Cena has always been great with is the kids. He's really,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really, really good with that.
Oh yeah. No, I
Uh,
won't argue
Well,
that at all. Yeah.
and they needed that image desperately, right? Because every time some big scandal happens, they go back to the kid side, right? Like recently,
well,
they've gone way kid recently. Why? Because Vince
yeah.
McMahon is in a scandal, right?
Well, one thing people give shit to Hogan for that me and Thundaros also talked about is that Hogan was about making money
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because especially back then there was no guaranteed contracts,
Right.
and
that's true.
whether people like it or not, him, Hall, and Nash made that possible.
Yep.
But Hogan, you could go and look. There's interviews with King Kong Bundy and guys like Mr. T and Tiny Lister, Debo, who said, "Man, I got the largest paydays of my life because of Hulk Hogan.
Hmm.
Right.
Because he was about that. He was about making money, and if he didn't think it would make money, he was quick to invoke the that doesn't work for me, brother clause.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
So
That's true. That's
and
true.
and I know a lot of people. It's become a meme for people who are big into wrestling and listen to the podcast. That phrase. I'm gonna be honest. Every American citizens need to take a page out of that playbook, especially when
Yep.
politicians start talking and say, "Doesn't work for me, brother."
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. It is a business. That's true. You
Here's
know,
what I would say with Hogan. The difference between Hogan and Cena. Well, one is obviously Hogan was far more talented. Let's start there. But besides that, Cena was far more interested in making sure he stayed at the top by pushing under people, burying other people effectively. Whereas Hogan was like Reggie just, well, like Mike just said, he was far more interested in making sure they made the most money, and he made the most money. And he knew that the only way to do that was the main event. But a whole lot of guys got all sorts of rub just for being on the same card as him,
It's true.
and he knew that.
It's
So
true.
that was one of the things he was trying to protect. Yeah, he didn't put people over very often, and when he finally did start putting people over, it kind of were the wrong people, unfortunately. But the point is that's, I think, the main difference. I think Cena's was far more, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost malicious, because he
Right.
didn't want to lose his spot because the money's guaranteed, right? He was making money, at that level. You're going to get a nice big fat. You get to the WWE, you're making money.
Yeah.
You're going to do all right. Whereas back in that day, back in like Hogan's day, there was no guarantee. There were guys working for WWF for $100 a night,
Sure.
stuff like that.
Yeah. You was a missed show away from losing your spot
Well, look what
permanently.
Yep,
happened to China. She get kicked out of WWE and she did porns.
it's true.
Jesus.
Well,
I mean,
that story is that sad, and
that is a sad
that
story.
for a lot of reasons.
Well, I don't know why, but during the Cena conversation, a memory came into my head, and there are a lot of moments and true, real emotional moments in wrestling. There's no
Yep.
doubt, right? There's been many. When even though he's an absolute ass, when Bret Michaels left the right way back when, that was an
Shawn,
emotional moment. And et cetera, et cetera. But I'm telling you, and I'm giving this to Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson. I'm
yep,
giving this 100% to him. Crusher Connors was one of the
yeah,
most just,
Conor the Crusher.
oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God, dude. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Like, and good on you, Daniel or Brian. Good on you for
yes,
doing that, dude. And I don't know much about him as far as his personal life, Brian Danielson, uh, but
he's a
uh,
good dude.
Mhm.
but that was a really genuine moment with that little cancer kid. And of course, after that big moment where he came in, he died like a week after that.
Oh yeah.
But
It wasn't much
when
later.
he came in and was it? Well, it was the Undertaker on the ground, right? And
No,
he
Triple H. It was Triple
well, it was
H.
No, it was
Triple
They
H. It
Triple
was
H.
Triple H. You're right.
Yep.
He pinned Triple H, and all the wrestlers are out to watch him do it. And you could tell very quickly who had kids and who didn't. Right?
Yeah.
No, you could, because we had I think his name was it Brian. Big Show. Right?
Yeah.
Big
Paul.
Show is, of course, he's in the middle, but he's always in the middle because he's Big Show.
Mm,
But
yes.
but the joy on his face to see that little
Yeah.
kid have his moment, and everybody, of course, was very excited. But boy, that was heart wrenching. That my goodness, dude, that's good
Yeah.
TV right there, because that's
Yeah.
human.
One of the things
I don't
that
know why it came into my mind when we were talking about John Cena, though. I don't know why.
well, you want to talk about about good old Brian Danielson. He is, the wrestling industry largely doesn't deserve him, and he
yeah.
is, ideologically, he and I probably wouldn't agree on much, but I can tell a genuine man when I see one, and he's a genuine man. He's got
Yeah,
large amounts of integrity, very hard worker, and he clearly desperately loves his family, his wife, and his kids.
and his job.
And his job, and he loves the business. So much
Yeah.
so he fought for it for 3 years after he had to retire to get back to it. Um, that's something that's rare in pro wrestling. It's just a lot of these guys are scumbags when it boils down to it. But I've never heard a story where Danielson snaked anybody at any level. I've never heard somebody who has a bad thing to say about the guy, other than maybe he's tough to argue with about stuff, because him and Kane used to get into arguments all the time, but they were friendly arguments. They weren't like nasty.
Mm.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But other than that, he just seems like a genuinely good man, which is super rare in this business.
Yeah,
Super rare.
that's good to hear. That's good to hear because
Yep.
I'm like saying, if you want to have a genuine moment, human moment, go watch the Crusher Connors stuff. It
Yep.
was really wonderful what they did. They didn't have to do that, but they did. And I challenge you to not have watery eyes after it. I challenge you,
Oh yeah.
because I am the old school male. There is no crying. What is that? Show me a definition, right?
Yeah.
But boy, it's hard not to water up in that, dude.
Yeah. It's good
Damn.
stuff.
Yeah, it was, but it was just wonderful because they didn't need, they had to break and rearrange kayfabe everywhere to do that,
Yeah.
right? But they did it without even question, right?
Yep.
And good on them for that. Good, I mean, really, really good on them. Anyway, I do want to move on to the next aspect that I wanted to talk about today. But before I do, I'm going to give these guys an opportunity to talk about anything here in the WWE that they would like to, as far as what's currently going on. We're not going to talk about the AEW because that's a drunk falling up an escalator, so we shan't.
Oh, the biggest problem with AEW is Tony Khan. It starts and
It
ends
seems
with
so.
Tony
Yeah.
Khan
The
Yeah.
because
boss is not the boss.
he's a rich mark. That's what he is. To me he's the dumbest mark in the history of wrestling. I know some people would have said that with Dixie Carter, but at least Dixie Carter had at least had the excuse of she was not a wrestling fan. She was a businesswoman who bought a wrestling company.
You know what?
Where
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna disagree with you for just a second. I apologize. The only reason I do that is because Dave Meltzer, I think, is worse because he's been around long enough to know what
oh
the
well,
situation is, and he defends AEW like for no good reason. He's been
oh
yeah. So
we well,
yeah,
I agree with you completely. Well, here's the funny thing. You mentioned that because I remember when the wrestling podcast started to get big, where it was, Bruce Pritchard started getting a podcast, and then Tony Schiavone got a podcast, and Bischoff had a podcast, and all of these wrestlers had podcasts, and almost
You could have just
universally,
said prima
whenever
donna. That would have worked.
whenever Dave Meltzer gets brought up, especially by those guys, like to those guys, it was fuck Dave Meltzer.
oh yeah.
Interesting.
And at
Yeah.
first,
Well,
I was like, "Damn, I didn't realize the man had that much hate." But the more you go into it, he's a huge problem with AEW because of the shit that he does outside of it.
Yep.
But Tony is the biggest problem, is because it's literally the buck stops with him. He's
That's
the
a good
one
point.
who made the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega the EVPs, and to like you said, like Tondaro said earlier, to where if you can't even just fire them like you fire a regular employee because they have that power,
stupid.
where
Stupid.
you
Yeah.
you 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 have all of this, you brought in all of this talent. He's brought in a fuck ton of talent, and not just in ring talent, like like you said, the commentators, the guys in the back. How the fuck do you have Tony Schiavone, Taz, Big Show, Jim Ross, Jake Roberts, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and your product is consistently shit week after
Yeah.
week, show
Yeah.
after show,
It's
and it's
it's bad, dude.
and
Yeah.
not to mention that a lot of the big name people that he has brought in from the WWE has gotten noticeably worse
And they're
ever
not
since
even
they've
getting
gotten
much
there.
screen time either.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
like
Um.
the only person there who's gotten better when he first arrived is probably Swerve Strickland. Everybody else has gotten worse.
That's fair.
Even
Yeah.
Danielson.
Yeah. Well, no,
As much as I hate to say that,
yeah,
he's gotten worse.
like I said, I haven't
Because
I've been following like you guys have, but I've been watching it and this week, and the only good thing I saw over there was Jr. and his crew and Kenny Omega.
yeah,
Yeah.
Omega's
You put him in the ring with Kenny Omega.
I can
Dude,
I
the guy is good on the
I'm
mic.
sorry.
He's good in the ring. He's a
No,
solid,
he is
solid
not.
wrestler.
He's the most belt twink in the wrestling business.
Well, yeah, but okay, so he's a Dolph Ziggler aspect, but the guy is a
No,
great
he's not.
worker.
He's
He's
not
a
Dolph
dude.
Ziggler.
Go watch him
Don't.
wrestle.
In,
I did.
I
I have no
have.
context. Keep
I
that in
don't
mind. I
insult.
have
Don't
no
insult.
bias. That
Do not
dude
insult
is a
Dolph
great
Ziggler by
worker.
putting him in that conversation.
We got a Twinkle
See,
Toes defender over here.
Well,
I see
I
that.
don't know. I have no context for him. I just saw
I've
the
know.
two
seen
matches
most
I
of
saw,
Kenny.
and he's a great worker.
I've seen most
He's
of Kenny Omega's
athletic.
career. He's very athletic. I've seen
He
most
is
of
very
Kenny
athletic.
Omega's career,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I will say In ring is his least of his problems. When it comes to actually executing the moves, his pace, like one of the things Chester's talking about, and has been talking about this whole time, is speed and smooth. And Kenny is both of those. He's very fast. He's very smooth. As far as I know, he's never hurt anybody seriously, or at all, really. Especially with how fast he's moving, that's impressive.
Yeah,
I
no.
don't think Kenny's problem is his work. I actually agree with Chester. I think Kenny's a fantastic worker. Kenny's problem is his head. He's got a big ass ego. He doesn't listen to
Yeah, see,
anybody.
I don't
And he
know
thinks
any of
he
those
knows
things.
everything.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Uh,
But I do know I
if you
saw
get
him.
Kenny in there with Danielson, they did this one time. They've had one match, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Because he's in there with somebody he, one, is going to listen to, or Danielson just beat the shit out of him. And two, he will listen to because he has a lot of respect for him.
Okay,
So
see, I don't know that
you
stuff.
put him in there with
Yeah.
somebody who he can, put his ego aside and get to work with, and Kenny can work. There's a lot of reasons why, like Jim Cornette specifically, which is where the Twinkle Toes comment came from, dislikes Kenny. But even he'll admit that Kenny can work, and if you could deprogram him and get him, with bright thinking in his head, the man would be a
I see.
genuinely
So
phenomenal
I must have
overall
just
wrestler.
caught a couple of moments where he was just
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
But
He,
okay, fair enough. But you have
he's
to
he's
understand what I'm.
athletic, but I think he's overrated.
Well, yeah,
Because,
but
like you
you have to
said,
understand.
yeah, you if your best defense is, well, he had great matches with Danielson, Okada, and Kenta, and I'm like, well, fuck, it's Okada, Kenta, and Danielson. I mean, fuck, I think my fat ass can roll in the ring for 15 minutes with Danielson and look great at the end of it. But
Well, he's good at getting
he's
you
that
over. He's really
fucking,
good at that. But no,
yeah,
no,
because
no.
he's that fucking good.
Yeah, but
Yep.
let me put it in context, right? So I only saw a couple matches, and the only mic work I saw him do was we had this absolute ass thing called Darby something. That is great in the ring, but his mic work is it's insultingly bad. It's
He's
insultingly
gonna be
bad.
talking.
And
He's gonna be talking.
he came and spoke to whoever that chick is after the fact. It
Yep.
was shockingly better. So,
Yep.
I'm sorry, but
I
context.
think with Kenny, a lot of the reason people dislike him is because he has so much. It looks like overacting the way he moves and gyrates. And Cornette's even said something like the way he gyrates his body around and the way he moves and stuff. But when he's in there with somebody where he tones that down, somebody he takes seriously, and I just use Danielson as an example. There's others he takes seriously. He's a good worker. He just is. I don't know if I'd say he's as good as Ziggler,
No,
but
no, God,
Ziggler's a
no.
different
But
beast.
once again, drunk falling up an escalator. Okay. And
Okay,
who in
well,
the chat is disparaging Jim Cornette? Who?
he's
Bob?
not. He's. Wait. But I'll say this. To be fair to Kenny, one of my biggest problems with him, and he's not alone in this, is that he's a lack of believability.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's big. He's big and athletic, and I've heard the guy in some interviews. And even though he is a bigger and more athletic dude than me, I still don't believe that dude could kick my ass in a fight.
Oh, wow, that's bad.
That's
That's
one of
not good.
and that's one of the
That's not
things
good.
about wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
I remember Shivani on his podcast. He said one thing that he always used to love about wrestling is that you knew there was a certain aura of bullshit, but there was always that one guy that could hook you in. You'd be watching it and it'd be like, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. But that guy, that motherfucker is real. And Kenny doesn't have that, and a lot of them
Okay.
don't.
I
Yeah,
agree.
see, I don't have the context. I
like,
But a
understand.
guy like Gunther, I don't want
he's
to get hit
great.
by him.
like
I'm
like
good.
Gunther looks like a Jack Kirby villain brought to life,
Yeah.
and he looks like
Well,
and it looks like he could snap my fucking neck.
I saw
That's
two.
what I mean by
I saw two of
believability.
his matches too, and he's great. But
He is.
Jim Cornette is no Bobby Heenan. Fair, but
That's
he's
true.
valuable. But then
Nobody's
again,
Bobby Heenan.
nobody's Bobby Heenan. But one of the
Yeah.
best commentating duos you ever had was Bobby Heenan with JR. My God,
Oh my
dude.
god. Yep.
Jesus.
It's funny because again, like I said with Danielson, ideologically he and I would probably never agree. Same with me and Cornette. But when it comes to wrestling, we all want the same thing. We want it. That's the key word: believability.
Mhm.
Yes, it's fake. It's not real. They're not really trying to hurt each other. But I don't want to know that when I'm watching it. When
Right,
I
no,
watch it,
that's
I
true.
want to believe for a second, at least for a second, that these guys hate each other and are ready to rip each other's
Yeah.
faces off.
Like,
Why?
And
Why?
a
Why is
lot of
Sheamus
these
a
guys don't
leprechaun
have
now?
that.
Why are they leprechauns? Anyway, sorry.
Because he's Irish,
well,
you see, so leprechaun.
I'll always bring this up as one of my favorite feuds, and Thundaro knows it. Finley versus William Regal.
Yeah.
Those guys are best friends in real life. But if you go back
Sure.
and watch their feud in WCW, especially 96, 97, they would beat the unholy fuck out of each other where you thought the animosity was real.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
their
see,
job.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That kind of believability, it's like Comic Book Bob said, there's not a lot of storytelling with these guys in the ring. Even one of the most underrated aspects of Hulk Hogan, yeah, he wasn't Killer Kowalski in the ring. But
I'm not,
Hogan could make you believe that a guy as small as Rick Rude, for as ripped as he was, he could make you believe that Rick Rude had a chance.
You beat him up. Yeah.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
silliness.
yeah.
Hogan's
Well,
ability to get you to believe that he was vulnerable was his greatest asset.
oh, he's a great
He
seller.
had,
Yeah,
when Macho Man Randy Savage, who, he's my height and probably
little
close to, he's probably weighs less than me actually right now. But I believe
Yeah, it was about 220 at his most
Yeah.
built.
I
So-
believed he could hurt Hulk Hogan. I believed he could take
Sure,
him out.
yeah.
You beat him.
Well-
You hit him with that elbow. That'd be it.
one
That's
of
what
the
I believe.
best gimmicks ever, dude. Macho Man. And
Yeah.
Macho Man could do everything. He was a complete
Everything.
But he-
package. Whereas say
but
the
he was
Ultimate
also
Warrior
believable.
was not.
No.
But I'm saying you believed Macho was stone fuck crazy.
Oh yeah,
You believed it,
hell yeah, yeah. He
not
was
just
good
what
at
he
it.
said,
was
but
good at
what
it.
he did.
Yeah. Now,
You-
now, Bob, I don't disagree with you. Heenan was the gorilla, and
Oh, yeah.
Jr. and what was the other one?
JR and Lawler.
Jr. and Lawler, yeah. No, those guys, they are great teams. But anyway, let me move away, and unless you guys got some specific modern thing you want to talk about,
Uh-oh.
I want
No,
to
I
get
think we
into the
covered
old
most
stuff.
of it.
Okay.
And because right now WWE especially is in this weird state of flux. They just did their draft, so they just moved a bunch of people around on the shows, which doesn't really matter. It's silly.
The Endeavor
and
deal.
They're right, and they're stuck in this situation with Roman where he's been champion for so long now that he can't drop the title to just anybody. Whoever beats him, it's going to have to really, 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 really matter, and it's going to have to be somebody who they can run with for a while. Right?
They
It's
have
got to
some
be
talent.
a
They
guy.
got some talent over there, dude.
Well,
I
They
told
just
you
Problem
what's
is,
going to
Hogan's
happen.
beating them all. He's
I
beating
told
everybody.
you. I told you what's going to happen. It's going to be
Uh-oh.
dumb, but I told you what's going to happen.
Well, say it again.
Because we're going to come to WrestleMania 40, and because of the bloodline and everything you guys are talking about, he's going to drop it to The Rock.
Oh,
That's
God.
just going to be what happens.
Worst decision.
Yeah. Well, no, keep in
that'd be
mind,
It-
Rock's
it-
dad, his father and his grandfather were black men. But because he is mixed. But his dad wasn't a bad wrestler at all. But he's
No,
not
that's- yeah, no,
Samoan.
Well, here's the dumb thing. As a short-term thing, it would be good because everybody knows the fans will go for it, the nostalgia of it. Short-term, it'll be great.
Yeah,
but
but
long-term, it's not a good idea. But we already see the direct. Ben, you're probably right because did they not just introduce another heavyweight belt? So,
World title.
They're
so
doing that
that's
because
probably what they're going to
yeah.
give Cody as a
Yep.
consolation prize for not taking it off of Roman.
1,000%.
Which is
and-
just retarded.
Yeah, but
What that is.
I have a serious question because clearly there's been some things going on I haven't seen with Dwayne. But I would be really concerned putting Dwayne Johnson in the ring right now. He's way too tight, dude. He already
well, that's
popped.
what happened last time.
That's what happened last time, and his body was
His muscles literally exploded
and
on him.
you can
because
still
they
see
were so
it.
tight.
You can still see it.
Yep.
His abdomen is totally ruined. Are you really going to put Dwayne in the ring? I don't think he's ring
I
ready,
think
dude.
that's the only reason he hasn't been back is because he knows that somewhere, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, he knows he just can't. His body won't let him do that, especially
Mm-mm.
not a main event at WrestleMania level match. If he did some little nonsense tag match for 10 minutes or something where he was barely ever in the ring, he could do that, but he can't do a main event for the world title. His body, I honestly think he does it. He's going to
Well,
really regret it again.
he is a great seller, though. He is a great seller.
Yes.
But is Roman good at putting people over? Does he have that skill?
Well, maybe if they'd ever let him lose. Chester, I need you to
Yeah.
understand something. Roman Reigns has not lost a match clean in at least 3 years. It's probably even longer than that because the
So
last
it's-
time before he left because he got his leukemia came back and he had to drop the title. And then he left when COVID started happening. He left because he was afraid he didn't want to catch COVID with his history of cancer and everything, right? He
Sure,
didn't want to.
makes sense.
You don't want to risk it. So
Right.
he left for a while, came back, got the title back immediately, and is champion ever since.
So
this dude doesn't put anybody over. It's not that I don't think it's him making that decision, obviously, but I don't know if he's any good at putting people over because we
Wow.
have never seen him do it.
So he's Cena. He's Cena 2.0 then.
It's worse than Cena, in fact.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also emblematic of a larger problem in the WWE in that we're watching sort of a real life secession problem in that there needs to be a handoff from Vince McMahon to Triple H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Clearly.
this whole thing, Vince McMahon coming back and running things from the shadows because he's still, interfering with creative. It's obvious. It's obvious he's forcing certain things to happen. He needs to just go away, right?
Yeah.
He's 70 something. He can be away. Hunter has proven that he can run it just fine.
We
And
know
that-
he can. We know
Yeah.
Hunter can. We know he can.
Yeah.
So let him do it. Yeah, no, fair enough. And we'll see how things carry on here going into the future. Because the one thing is definitely true about the WWE is the mat work is slick. It is.
It is.
So that's done and dusted. So you
Well,
just
you
need to
had
deal with the other stuff.
Triple H in charge of training those guys. He wasn't doing the in-ring work as much, but he was still the head guy down there for years before all this stuff with Vince happened. And then now you have Shawn Michaels doing it. So if you can't get better at this job under those two, then you got no business in this business because you're not going to get to better as far as like guys who understand the psychology, understand how to work. Triple H doesn't get enough credit. He was a fantastic worker. He didn't do anything flashy, but he did everything right.
No, he's a solid wrestler. Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. Well, anyway, let's switch gears here. And what I want to do is I want to look at now. I don't know who's on this list. I have no clue. But this is supposed to be the top 50 most famous wrestlers of all time. So there's going to be a bunch of nostalgia in here, I am sure. But what I'd like to do is compare the old to the new. And as we're going through here and have some fun nostalgia moments because there's going to be people in this list that deserve every accolade, obviously. So let's get to it. First one we got here, of course, is Huffman, Booker T. I was never a big fan, but I get the gimmick, I get the schlock, and overall he seemed to be well liked. But I don't have much to say about Booker T.
Huffman. His last name, I didn't know that. His last name is Huffman. What a boring last name for Booker T.
That's why he's Booker T.
I always liked
Booker was that dude.
Yeah, I always liked Booker T. And he always came off as the type of dude you didn't really want to mess with. Like, not really. Like, you didn't want to push. And some people found that out the hard way. Like Batista. He beat his ass.
Yeah.
But no, I always liked Booker T. I thought he was great. It's a shame. Speaking of Triple H, we can talk about how great Triple H is now, but there was a time where they did a angle that heavily implied Triple H was racist.
Of course.
And then he beat Booker T for the title at WrestleMania
5 times.
5
times.
Triple H, are you racist? I'm very confused by that whole storyline.
Yeah, it's just a storyline, dude. They've done stupid shit.
Booker is one of those dudes who will almost certainly be a WWE lifer. He's not going anywhere. They take good care of him, and he's done great work for him. So I like Booker. I
like him on the mic, actually.
He's got the second greatest blooper in wrestling history when he dropped the N-bomb on Hulk Hogan on live TV, which was it's so funny. But other than that, yeah, he was always good on the mic. He could talk, and he had the one thing that a lot of these guys don't have. He had his own character. There was nobody else like Booker T.
Yeah,
Booker T.
He's a fair commentator as well.
Yeah, he's all right.
It's Booker had like in WCW had one of the more organic rises of any
Yep.
wrestler I think people could remember because at one time he was just him and his brother. It was just a tag team. They was the heel tag team
Right,
for a good
right.
while,
He ain't
and
no
slowly
junkyard
but
dog though.
surely,
Well, that's true. For
I
WWC.
would say in terms of being popular, yeah. But in terms of in ring work, oh, Booker wipes his ass with
Nah, that's
Junkyard
probably
Yeah.
true.
Dog.
That's probably true. But
But
Junkyard's
from
gimmicks were
but
awesome. I love Junkyard, dude.
oh yeah, I love
JYD.
JYD, but I'm saying like starting in '96 when slowly but surely they slowly started moving him away from Harlem Heat and giving him more and more singles matches, and he just over time just got
He
more
became
singles opportunities, and yeah,
yeah. It was just
and
the
still
end of
one
that. He was dying, but he was growing. It was just the wrong time. If it
yeah
had been earlier, I think he would have been an even bigger star. To be honest with
Oh well,
yeah,
fair enough.
and
I did see an,
and the feud with him and Chris Benoit for the U.S. title,
you.
some of the best matches WCW had put out at that time.
Yeah.
fair enough.
Can't
I
I
know,
get
did
it
see
up.
an interview with him, and I don't know the exact situation, but he was talking about a pretty severe bump he took, and he was talking about he had done something here or there, and it was a receipt, and he it was fair that he took it. It was very interesting listening to him
yep,
talk because he got injured, and but it was his own damn fault, and he called it a receipt, so he must have done something before that prompted the wrestler to go at him.
yep,
When they're talking about shoots and receipts in wrestling lingo, it simply means that someone is being real with a shoot, and a receipt is getting
oh yeah,
payback for you being real. That's what those mean.
Or
But
screwing up.
yeah, or screwing up, getting put in your place, getting a bit of discipline. But
Yes.
Booker had done something, and he got a bump, and but he accepted it 100%. He would say, "Yeah, I deserved that receipt." That was interesting to hear him talk like that. It was quite honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the best things about Booker is like kind of like a Brian Danielson. I don't have any reason to doubt Booker T.
No, he seems
Like
pretty
if he
straight.
says something, even if I disagree with it, even if it's dumb, I know where he's coming from. It's It's a genuine. It's not. There's no disingenuousness to it. And that's something I really appreciate when it comes to pro wrestling, especially.
Yeah. However, I can tell from the bottom of the picture, the next one needs conversation for sure. Jake the
Oh,
Snake.
Jake! Look at that name. What a name,
Yeah.
Aurelian.
Now, I don't- you know I'll get I'll give a little bit on Jake, and you guys give your opinions. But Jake's story is way more than wrestling.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand where Jake Roberts is coming from. He's a legacy wrestler too. Did you know that? His
Yeah.
father was called Grizzly, and his dad is one of the worst monsters in wrestling history. Right? His father was a child rapist. And Jake's dad and his mom. See, his dad was dating his grandmother, and his grandmother, of course, had a 13-year-old daughter in the house. And old Grizzly decided to play around with that 13-year-old, and that's Jake's mother.
Jesus.
Okay,
Jesus,
so he is the spawn of infidelity. Well, not infidelity. What's a better word for that? I know we
Rape.
have one. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one.
That's the one. Yeah.
YouTube doesn't like that one though.
Not a fan.
But what have you? And he had to deal with the whole reason he got in wrestling was to prove to his father that he was worthy. And the amount of angst and pain and suffering this guy went through with just his family ordeal and his history and his troubles. The fact that he succeeded as much as he did, I just take my hat off to him. I mean, that's about all I can really say, because I don't know that you have a harder start in life than he did. I really don't know that you do.
It's a pretty
Um,
bad one.
but he worked his way up, and he is a worthy legend. Now, I'm sure we're about to get
Yes.
hit with a bunch of bad things about Jake Roberts, because I'm sure there are. But I had to get that out because you give the guy respect at least for the fact that he fought out of a very ugly situation, and became something.
Well,
Yeah.
and because of that situation, and he got into a profession that isn't conducive to a healthy lifestyle. He ended
Oh
up
yeah,
with very bad habits, very bad addictions, very, very bad, that he
that's
only
true.
recently, seemingly anyway, has beaten. The sad truth about genuine addiction is you never fully beat it. It's always
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
It's a daily struggle. And hopefully he never has any major breakdowns again. But
Yeah, I did see him in the
as
Peter
far
Better
as,
Falcon movie recently, though.
was he any good? How did he do there?
Well, he just was like a wrestler in it. It was like a heartwarming Down syndrome type of. Anyway, go ahead.
That's cool. But as Jake the Snake Roberts, um, yeah, he's one of these guys who probably, if he could have kept himself clean or kept himself straight, he would have been or should have been world champion at some point. There was a time when he was crazy over. I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
The dude, he just had this. When it comes to the one thing that you can only learn in wrestling, in wrestling specifically, is the psychology. No one can really teach it to you because if you don't understand it, you'll never really get it. So you have to learn it, or you just have to get it right out of the gate. He was an absolute master at it. He could do so little in a match where he was basically doing nothing and have the crowd going crazy. I mean, crazy for what he was about to do. Whether they were booing him or cheering him, he knew exactly how to push people's buttons.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do when it's thousands of people all looking at you. It's something that it's impressive. And it's a shame that, I mean, because people have to understand guys like Diamond Dallas Page, who's probably on this list somewhere, I would
I hope
imagine.
he is. He should be.
Um, he, he's a wrestler largely because of Jake Roberts and Dusty Rhodes.
Hmm.
Those two guys, which, geez, because you have two better mentors. Holy shit!
All right.
Those two guys are what pushed him to even really do it. And he would take his tapes after his matches, and he'd show them to Jake, and Jake would just pick it apart. Why'd you do this? This was stupid. Don't do that anymore. Why are you making that face? Stuff like that. And he sat down and he learned. He listened. He didn't argue with him. He didn't. There wasn't no debate. It was just, what's he going to tell me?
Yeah.
And that's the type of guy he is when it comes to a mind for the business. Plus his ability to cut promos where he could just talk to you. He just talked to you. He didn't yell. He wasn't like he wasn't like your Hogans or your Warriors or your Savages where he's yelling and screaming and hyper. He's just talking to you. But the way he would talk to you and the cadence of it, it sounded like a serial killer. You were hooked by the way he would tell these stories with his promos. And that is something that no one has replicated. No one. Not
Yeah.
to this level. And that's crazy to me. Jake should have been an even bigger deal than he was, but because of, like you said, he had probably the worst possible start you can have,
Hmm.
and then he also had loads of addictions, and he's had all
Which
kinds
came
of
out
other
of that.
horrible stuff.
It came out of
Yeah,
that.
all
Yeah.
kinds of other horrible
It's a
stuff has
rough
happened to him
story.
as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Um.
but it has a happy ending at least so far.
So
He
far.
has, thanks to Diamond Dallas Page, he has pulled out of most of that nonsense, or probably all of it. The addiction's under control. He's doing pretty good. Like you said, he was just in a movie. He's still signed with AEW, as far as I know. They don't ever use him anymore, which is ridiculous. Um, that's a good thing because a lot of these guys, remember what you started
Well,
talking about right at the beginning, is they die really young
they do.
because they don't get pulled out of it.
Yeah.
They never get pulled out
And
of that dark.
and to be fair, Page and Rhodes don't get the credit they deserve for their behind the camera, the behind the stage, backstage stuff that they do. But one thing that AEW could do with Jake Roberts is put him on the damn mic as a commentator on the freaking Dynamite show because it's ass.
It's bad.
Well,
I love that that's
would
the first thing you noticed is how bad the commentary is
well,
because that is literally our main complaint when it comes to the presentation of the show. That commentary is just horrific.
that would involve Tony telling one of his buddies that he shouldn't be doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And Tony's not going to do that because Excalibur's his little buddy.
Well, if you
And look,
take,
I'm not even against nepotism, but if all you was going to do was have Excalibur be your lead commentator and step over everybody every time somebody says anything, why the fuck are you paying Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross?
yeah, that's fair. And it's really, really, really bizarre. Because if you put Jake with a good talker like Bobby Heenan or someone like that, you'd have a really good duo right there.
Oh my
That would
god.
be a good team. Someone like him, like for instance that Maxwell Jeremiah Friedman.
MJF is he is treasure.
Dude, he is a Mike beast.
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
Imagine him and Jake commentating. That's the bomb
Wait,
right there,
oh,
baby.
have you let him see the one with the fucking pickle?
Oh no, I have. I've seen the
No.
pickle. I saw the pickle. I saw it. And it's like it's genius. You want a pickle? These are the greatest pickles. He kept promoting it the whole time. It was hilarious, dude. He's really good on the mic, dude. He's
He is.
he's fantastic.
Well,
Yes.
there's also another one where that came from because you're talking about the one on the show. They have like these press conferences that they do after their pay-per-views, and right after he won the I think it was right after he won the world title.
Yeah.
He had one, and he had these pickles, the same pickles there that somebody had brought for him. And he's in mid-sentence. He opens up the pickle jar, talking to some guy mid-sentence. He takes a bite of the pickle, and he just goes, "Oh my god, that's a good fucking pickle!" And it's just so hilarious.
No, the dude is legit. He's legit. But anyway, that's a shame they're not using Jake proper. But this is quite the story. Glenn Jacobs, of course, he's
Kane.
said several names, but Kane is the one he's known by. And he's actually, interestingly enough, he's a pretty good guy when it comes to watching out for other people.
Yeah.
He plays
Wait.
a monstrous character, but he's pretty good at actually, protecting the other wrestlers.
Yeah. Bob Excalibur is not even good at play-by-play because he overtalks everything. There's
Yes.
nothing worse than a commentator that doesn't shut the fuck up.
Commentary,
There's
less more.
Dude,
it's not even that. Like
I heard that
all right, there's
Excalibur. Well, I heard that Excalibur guy, someone in the ring had done a German suplex, right? And he
Yeah.
called it a German spinner. Someone slap him. Slap the mask off his face, please.
Oh, we got a cornet over here. Yeah, that's one of the main complaints too. Is that stupid mask? Get the mask off your face, dude. What are you doing?
all right.
You're not a luchador.
Sorry.
You don't need
Sorry
to wear a
about that,
mask
Jim.
forever. Anyway.
All right,
Go ahead.
I'll give an example, because Fundar, you know I watch sumo, and
Yeah.
one of the commentators that they have, Hero. A lot of people hate Hero because Hero never shuts the fuck up.
Yes.
Hero, he's very knowledgeable. Like, to be fair, he's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. The dude, he knows his shit. But the moment he starts talking to the end of the last fucking match, whenever he's on, he just does not shut up. It's like there just can't be any dead space, no place to build suspense. Sometimes a good suspense is give him a couple of moments, have the stare down or whatever.
Well,
No,
No, it's
can't
interesting
do
you
it.
mentioned that because
Excalibur's the same way.
no, he is, and since we have Jr. still working, it's a good we can use him as an example. He
Yeah.
is, and obviously everyone around him knew because I don't know this for true, but I feel that this was going on. He had verbal cues to shut everybody up, right?
Mm.
And one of
Yep.
those was, wait a minute,
Yep.
right? And everyone went silent. Jr. knows when silence is needed, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And he had a system set up where everyone was ready. They must have had some verbal cues, right? So it's a good example. That Excalibur guy is absolute shit, Bob. Bob,
Bob can come in here if he wants.
he
to talk about
can.
Excalibur.
He can
Well,
easily
here-
come in.
Well, here's the thing. Excalibur came from one of the indie wrestling shows where a lot of these AEW guys came from. And Tony was a big fan of that shit.
Yeah.
And because he was a big fan of that, he brought all of those guys over. And look, again, I'm not even against nepotism. Most people in that position would do the exact same thing that Tony does, and anybody who says they wouldn't is fucking lying.
Yeah,
Um,
to a point.
But the fact of the matter is, you hired absolute legends. You didn't just hire Joe Blow off the street. You hired Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, and they're both great in different aspects. Jim Ross is probably the greatest storyteller as far as a commentator there is. Tony's one of the best play-by-play guys. They would work better together without Excalibur because they get to do their functions as possible. Excalibur's trying to do both their jobs at the same time.
Yep.
While stepping over their toes anytime they say anything. No, get him the fuck out of there. He doesn't know how to fucking do that role.
Bring the King in.
Oh, King.
We need some
like-
Lawler, man. Give me the link. Well, Bob, I think you already have, but let me find. Let me.
Yeah, he's right here. I'm looking right at you. You got a bright red name and everything. You can join.
Yeah, just join
whenever you want.
Just go to live and click on it. Come on in.
FanSpeak server.
Yeah.
The one you used to do D&D in. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Let me check his roles. Stream. You're a stream regular, dude. You could just click on live and come right on in, dude. You are welcome, sir.
I think honestly, the problem with JR is he is getting older, and he does stumble some. Like the hour show, one of the reasons why he's so good there is because it's shorter, so he doesn't wear himself out.
Fair.
But
No, that's fair.
Jim Ross is one of these guys, and I don't remember who said it, but I was watching a podcast. I think it was Eric Bischoff, but I don't know for sure. And he said that Jim Ross is the greatest talker in the history of the business because he had to cut 2-hour promos when he back in the heyday of WWF, and there was just nothing anybody could do that could compete with it. Because as lead commentary, he had to make sure to keep the audience invested. That was his job. And he had to do it
really
the whole show. Excalibur thinks his job is to explain everything to you like you're stupid. And I don't need you to do that, Mr. Caliber, nor does anybody watching, not even little kids, because I'm going to tell you right now, little kids ain't listening to you anyway. They're watching the match. So your job is to get me to feel something, is to try and get an emotional response, an emotional investment from the viewer. You're supposed to be our voice. So when something terrible is happening, you should be the one reacting to it far more than anybody else as the main guy. Tony Schiavone used to do it in WCW. Obviously, JR used to do it in WWF. Vince McMahon used to do it in WWF. Like, that is who should be the guy who's speaking in that moment, or no one should be speaking in that moment.
Oh, no. I still think that Maxwell Jericho Friedman should be the guy. Replace him.
No, listen, guys. Let me make a comment. Excalibur is not terrible. He's just doing the wrong job. He should not be in charge of the commentary. It should be Tony. With my brain doesn't want to work anymore. Tony should be in charge. Excalibur should just be there to like add to the play-by-play that's going on in the ring, and that's it. And then he should shut up.
All right, fair enough.
But
that's not what we're seeing. So,
but
that's
the color
problem.
Guy should be Don Callis, and I don't know why they won't.
If I put in, I don't know if you guys saw the comment I left in the chat there. If they could poach Ken Kelly from New Japan, that would be awesome. But they can't because they're never going to let that guy go. But Don's there. He's under contract. Why the hell is he not on the commentating team?
Well, I mean,
it's kind of funny because Tony bought Ring of Honor.
Well,
he bought Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
He had and even though I don't think Kevin was under contract by the time Ring of Honor got sold, but you have Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman.
Yes. Did you watch Forbidden Door last year?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I was actually there at the show. The freaking Kevin Kelly made that commentary team 1,000% better. And every time now that Ring of Honor has their own show, they're not on there anymore because they're not doing as many Ring of Honor matches over on AEW. But Riccaboni and those guys would go over there and call those matches over on AEW, and they made him 1,000% better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've got access to these guys, and they don't do shit with them.
Kevin this is where JR, in my opinion, like when I watch a New Japan show, I always watch it in English, even though the Japanese commentators are hilarious. But because of him, because he is I don't think he's as good as JR in his prime, but he's
No.
the closest we've had since that. Because he
Yes.
knows
But it's
how
it's
to
it,
get me to pay attention, to get me invested
but
as a commentator.
it's funny because remember back in the day when Raw, how they would do the 2 hours. It would
Yes.
be Kevin Kelly and Jonathan Coachman doing the first hour, or it would be Kelly and sometimes it'd be Cornette,
Sometimes, yeah, Cornette.
and then for the second hour it would be Jr. and King, and
Because they were
I wouldn't
technically
have
two
a
different
problem.
shows.
Yeah, and to be honest, I wouldn't have a problem if AEW even did that. You want to keep Excalibur out there? Okay, have him do the 8 o'clock hour with Shivani, and then have JR come in to do the big matches for the nine
He's just
o'clock hour,
he's
which is what you
terrible,
should
but
be doing.
he's just terrible at pushing the story along. You know what I mean? He
Yes.
just
Y-
Mhm.
Yeah,
look at
because he's trying
the
to.
commentary.
He's doing everything.
Well,
Yeah, look at the commentary he does during the women's matches. That's one of the reasons why the women's matches are dead.
Yes.
well, yeah,
I mean,
Nobody
that's
oh
cares.
God,
that I
Well,
found the skip button quick. Um, but we do need to talk about these classic wrestlers a
oh
little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, let's
Although
do
I
it.
still believe that Maxwell Jedediah Friedman is the man.
This guy.
So,
This guy.
but anyway, there's not much to say about Kane. I prefer the mat wrestlers. He's not that, but has a great gimmick.
he's a big man.
And he's big man, and there's nothing but thank you very much, Mr. Jacobs. I mean, really,
Now,
what
yeah,
more is there
one
to
last
say?
thing I want to say about AEW is that's another big problem that Tony has is he cannot book big men for shit.
Oh God, the big
Well, he's
man.
got Big Show. I
Yeah.
didn't see him though.
He's got
he has-
5 of the best big men in the industry, and 2 of them are sitting at home.
Yeah, they don't
Yes.
do shit. I don't know what he's doing. I
Yeah,
kept seeing
but
all I
anyway.
saw was Darby Allen, who's he's fun in the ring, but God, he's ass. I mean,
He's
on the
one
mic.
dimensional.
But anyway, let's get in. So Kane, awesome. I
Yeah.
have nothing negative to say about Kane whatsoever. However, the next one, Mick
Oh,
Foley.
Mick.
He's either you love him or you hate him.
Yeah, but he's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the problem.
some people,
is
yeah. Go ahead.
too many people have tried to replace him. They
Yeah.
try to be him, and they just don't have him.
No.
They don't have the
something about
likability.
him. Yeah, there's something about him that's just so lovable that when he
He's a
puts
dude
himself
who
in these-
shouldn't get over but does.
Yes, he
Right.
puts himself in these horrendous positions and takes this unbelievable punishment, and you love him for it. Like
You
you
do.
like him more when he's doing these
Well,
things.
he is the
Well,
fan that got in the ring. That's what he is.
Yes.
He's literally that. But back these days, or past 20 years, really, backstage, he's invaluable. The work he does with the young wrestlers and things he does that he gets
Yeah.
no acknowledgement for, Mick Foley is very important.
Yeah, another guy like that is Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is fair. Yeah.
One thing about Mick that doesn't, I don't think gets enough respect is he is actually a genetic freak. And when we think genetic freaks, we think of guys who are built like Brock Lesnar or even LeBron James. But Mick is a genetic freak in that his pain tolerance
That's freaking
is
psychotic.
is so unbelievable that he was able to, like you said, put himself in positions that the average person would be like, ain't no fucking way.
The
Right.
thing
Ain't no
about
way.
that, though, the thing about that though too is that even though like the pain tolerance is what got him there, but the personality, because freaking Nick Gage has the same kind of pain tolerance. He doesn't have that personality though.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's part of it, but it's also that Mick was able to work with other people. He could work.
Yeah.
He could work with a
actually
Rock.
wrestle
He could
if he
work
wanted
with Vader. He could
Yeah.
work with a top, like you mentioned, Tommy Dreamer. I still say anybody, if you really want to see some really good shit, ECW '95, Mick
Oh, yeah.
Foley
Oh, God.
and Tommy
yeah.
Dreamer, those promos, those matches. That was some of his best fucking work.
It was.
I
Another
don't think
thing-
he gets to the WWE without
The thing too is that he was
95.
selfless. He was willing to put anybody over. Didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be getting to that, Edwin, I would assume. But I have to say, Mick Foley deserves to be way higher on this list, however.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
That's very
Yes.
interesting. He's this
Scott.
Scott.
Speaking of the devil, Scott Hall.
Hey yo.
Hey yo.
Hey, yo.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a shame when he passed. Just what was it, last year,
Yeah.
the year before?
Yeah.
Because he was finally getting his life together.
Yeah, he was another one of DDP's success stories, and then he just
Yeah.
died in a surgery, just complete freak accident type
Yeah, that
situation.
does suck. Now he was Razor Ramon for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
That's
It
what he
started
went to the
out
Hall of Fame as originally.
he was also he was Scott Hall, and then he was the
Diamond Stud.
Diamond Stud, and then
Right,
then
right.
Razor.
And then back to Scott Hall
Or if you
Jr.
really want to go way back when he was just Big Scott Hall in
Big Scott Hall, yeah.
AEW, rocking a mustache that would make Tom Selleck blush.
Yeah, dude, the porn stats days were awesome though.
They seem to be coming back, and I'm not a fan. I have to say, not a fan.
What about
the
the
wrong
mullet,
people.
Chester? How do you feel about the return of the mullet? Because it has returned.
Yep.
Well, for a gimmick, sure,
Dom's
why
rocking
not?
it.
Oh no!
It
Some man walking around the streets of America right now,
Yeah, I know.
unironically with a mullet.
That's not good. That's not
And
good.
all they're missing is an '86 IROC and a Tom Petty tape.
Dude, that falls into the disco category. Okay. All right. Edwin says one of his audience members has been going through wrestling school in another country and is starting to do events now. Cool, dude. That's cool.
Nice.
Good luck to him. It's a lot of hard
Yeah.
work. You know, one of the things I've seen that WWE is doing, and I think they should stop it immediately, is it's dealing with their NXT, which I don't have a problem with that per se. Coming out of Ohio Valley Wrestling into getting a little screen time. But they have like a reality show thing going on with them. Stop that shit immediately.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, but no, it's not good. You're building ego problems for the future is what you're doing.
Dude, that's once again, that's Tony's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. Tony likes everybody. He's a mark, but the other thing is he wants everybody to like him in return. That's why he has no authority there, and that's why the inmates are running the asylum. That's the same reason why that show exists, because TBS came to him and said, "Hey, we'll give you an extra $20 million if you make this reality TV show." And he's like, "Okay,
Sounds good.
Yep.
yep."
Yeah, but you're also
That's the same reason why I'm doing a split roster thing, because they gave me another $42 million just to bring back CM Punk.
Wow, really? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
CM
They
Punk,
did not use him.
I'm going to
Actually, I
wait
think it was-
until he
I think-
comes up
I think
on
it
the
was
list
50 million.
because I have opinions on CM Punk. We're gonna wait.
Everybody does.
All right. So
what
Kevin
makes him great.
Nash, I missed his whole run. I missed Kevin. I didn't
Really?
see it. Yeah, it was during that point where I was, because I had a couple points in my life from where I didn't see much stuff, and I kind of missed the whole Kevin Nash thing. So I don't know much.
Read that little bit there, Chester. Read that out loud. Just the first sentence.
Native
of his-
Detroiter Kevin Nash is an actor and equal rights advocate who discovered his love of comedy as the class clown in elementary school, and to this day, he can find humor in almost any situation.
He's an equal rights advocate.
Is
Okay. I mean,
no, is he?
he talks about politics on the internet, I guess.
Equal rights, as long as he's the one who comes out on top.
Well, we're all American here. We're all into equality, aren't we? We're Americans. I mean,
That's the idea.
yeah, that's kind of the idea.
But honestly, I would put Scott above Kevin.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't comment on Kevin Nash. I think I've seen him wrestle once or twice, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
However,
You
the
would
next
hate
fellow,
him.
think about
I know him.
Yeah, but you think about memorable matches, Scott's got way more than Kevin does.
Oh yeah.
Oh, does he?
yeah.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But
Now,
no,
good old Teddy.
I've seen Razor,
Yeah.
wrestle quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I know he's very capable in every aspect. Teddy DiBiase, however, this fella, he's a real deal. Now he's a heel, and he played it beautifully.
One of the
but this
greatest
guy,
of all time.
yeah, dude, and he can work in the ring like no one's business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, it's that storytelling thing, man.
Yep. Yep. He can get people over, which he did many times. He's a great seller. He's a great mat worker, which are rare. Ted
Great on the
DiBiase should be way higher on this list. I have no clue why he's anything under 20.
This list is going to have a heavy recency bias. I can.
I
tell.
Yes,
betcha.
it is. I get this. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to be putting guys like Kenny and stuff way above these guys.
Yeah. No,
And
DiBiase is.
DiBiase, man.
Well, to be fair though, I wouldn't with recent stuff. I wouldn't mind with the Maxwell Jamiroquai Friedman.
Yes.
Oh my god.
He just got a dictionary of J names over here.
My
He's just
brain
running
is a
down.
dictionary, sir. Thank you very much. Uh, I could go on for days, but unfortunately, I don't know Kevin Nash very well. What did you guys think of his ring time, though?
Terrible.
He was not a very good in ring wrestler, but you
No.
cannot deny the effect the guy had on the industry.
But he was
The people-
He's just a big man.
extremely charismatic, and he was one of
Yes.
these dudes who he's a good-looking guy. So the ladies liked him a
Great
lot.
on the stick.
Yeah, could
All
talk.
Yeah.
And
Fair enough.
I would say, Jake Roberts had that quiet menace about him. Kevin didn't necessarily have that, but he had this he was cool. Like you could just
Yeah.
listen to him talk about stuff.
That's why they called him
yeah,
Big
that-
Sexy. Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Fair
But
enough.
the effect he had on the industry can't be denied, because the reason why wrestlers get paid so well today is because of this guy and Scott Hall.
Oh, really?
Because he's
Yeah.
an old
Okay.
union
Yeah.
Detroiter. That's why.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
hey, we
unfortunately,
get screwed here.
it killed WCW because
Well.
because they're they weren't smart about it. But wrestlers who are actually able to make a good living and get taken care of as well as they are today, they owe a big debt to these two guys.
Well, Captain Canada, best matches were with Bret Hart. That's always the truth.
That's
Bret
pretty
Hart
easy.
is the man, dude.
Yeah.
But we'll
Easy
get
stuff.
to him. We will.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on here.
But Ted DiBiase, amazing. Scott Hall was a lot of fun, and I don't know Kevin Nash,
Yeah.
but
Unfortunately for Ted, he's got some bad news in his family right now. His son's in a lot of trouble.
his son is in
Yeah.
a lot of trouble, and it's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
but whatever. The sins of the son, like they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
would
anyway,
say Ted's a little
Ted was
low on
another
this list.
another one of those guys that did a lot more behind the scenes that people know.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he did.
Yeah.
No, this dude is a general treasure, and he should be way higher. Rob Van Dam, Dallas Page, and Sid Vicious. Now, this is an interesting three to look at. Rob Van Dam, whether you like him or not, the guy is the complete package. He's great
Yeah.
in the ring. He's good on the mic. He's a good seller. I've seen him stiff and then not stiff, so I don't know.
The thing about his style, Cornette said it best. He said, the stuff he does shouldn't work, but for some reason with him it does.
Fair.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of one.
Yeah,
He's
no,
one
it's
of
fair.
one, exactly.
But
A lot of people have tried to copy him, but he's a true like you said. I remember back in ECW watching some of the things he would do, and so many people have tried copying him, and it never looks as good as when he does.
Doesn't work. It's just he's like he said. That's the best way to put it. He's a one of one.
He is, and his mic work is he's lightning quick on it, and he is the quintessential dad pun guy.
Yep.
Fantastic, that kind of stuff. But I have seen him quite stiff though on occasion, whereas Ted was never stiff at all, right?
Dude,
Smooth like
Ted
you
was
have
cut
not
from the-
seen
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
not
go ahead.
seen Ted in Japan.
Oh well.
Well,
no, I
Japan's
haven't.
a completely different
No, I
story, man.
haven't.
Japan's
a
Yeah.
whole other world.
that's like a necessity over there.
No,
You're
I haven't.
fighting for your life sometimes in those races.
That's fair.
Dude, just look at some of
Um,
Inoki's matches, man. They turn into literal fights.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've never watched Japanese wrestling. I don't know. But
I've seen some matches with him and Stan Hansen tag teaming, and
Oh God.
Ted can lay him in.
yeah, well, okay, fine, fair enough. But I'm just saying that this is the genuine article. Ted DiBiase was quintessential wrestler. I mean, he just was.
Yeah, he was cut from the same cloth as guys like Bobby Eaton.
Yeah, no, fair,
Yeah.
fair. Or even people like the guy there, the Mr. Perfect. I can never remember his real name.
Kurt Hennig.
Kurt Hennig. Yeah, that's right. Bret Hart. Those kind of guys. He's in that vein, right? Diamond Dallas Page. I appreciate him more for his out of the ring work than I do his in ring work. To be fair,
His in-ring work was very, very influential, though.
it was. I'm not taking anything away from the dude. I'm just saying that this guy is a good human being who has helped a lot of wrestlers. We talked about earlier how many wrestlers die around the age of 50 because of all the troubles and the drugs
Yeah.
and the steroids and all that crap going on. Dallas is on a freaking crusade to save lives, and thank
Yeah.
you, sir. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
all I
think
got to
well,
say.
I will say this: back in high school, one of the most imitated moves was the diamond
Diamond cutter.
cutter. That was
Yep.
our
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
was our
That is
shit.
true.
Trying to see if you could hit your friend out of nowhere with it.
Yep.
Self high five, man.
Right.
Oh yeah, doing that. Everybody doing the self high five, throwing up the
Yep.
diamond cutter sign.
Yeah.
It
And the
was
fact that the fact he started so late, like right there it says he was
yeah
35 before he became an in-ring performer.
Wow,
yeah
really?
And
Yeah.
he was that good. He
No.
was that freaking
No,
good
he
at
was.
35.
yeah
I'm not taking away from
yeah.
his in ring. I'm
And
just saying that
his
Yeah.
this man is
Oh
awesome.
no. Yeah, he's one of those guys that when he transitioned out of the ring, that's when he really like he was a great guy before that. He's invaluable now.
Yeah.
Oh
uh
yeah, no, I know he's got all kinds of crazy stories. I'm just saying, like
Well, the
he's
crazy thing about Page is he was always, even when he was just like a manager and just kind of working with, because he was also a promoter for a while.
yeah
Even when he
for
was
a
just doing
promoter.
all that, he was always one of the boys. That's why he was able to transition to be a wrestler so easily because they all respected him.
Yeah,
Um, and like his best friend is Stone Cold. Like him and Stone Cold are still really close. They still super, best
yeah,
friends. Lived together for a while and stuff. It's just interesting that it was so easy for him to just transition from backstage to like from manager backstage into wrestling. I just find that very fascinating, especially at the age that he did it. He did, like you said, 35, and he became within what 3 years the top or one of the top guys in
yeah. One of the top
WCW.
baby faces. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was. They called him the People's Champ and everything. He was champion like 3 or 4 times. I don't remember.
yeah. He had
And
that moniker before The Rock did.
yep, and he was just it was weird. Like he was just stupid over. Everything he did worked. He credited Macho Man for putting him over in their feud as one of the main reasons that was able to happen. Which I'm sure he'll show up on here soon enough. But
Yep.
DDP, for anybody who's in our age group, us younger guys compared to old man Chester up there,
Mhm.
he's one of those guys that it's kind of weird because he only existed at wrestling's peak and then he just went away. I mean, he showed up here or there afterwards, but as far as a wrestler, he was only around when WCW was at its climb, and then he was around a little bit after that, and then other than that, he was just gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cap Cannon mentioned the same thing you guys mentioned, where in high school we all tried to copy the things we saw. And I was one of the few kids in high school that was strong enough to suplex anybody. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was fun.
yeah.
But
I'm
we
just
like
glad.
to we like
I'm
to
just
hit each
glad.
other with figure fours. We'd put each other in
Yeah, I'm
figure
just glad
fours.
that we stopped that
sleepers.
we the emulating the fucking pile driver ended really quick.
Well, that
Yeah.
is very dangerous, but
Yeah,
I could have never been a proper wrestler, but I could suplex like no one's business.
Yep.
But anyway, Sid Vicious, any comments at all?
there's
Uh,
no way that he should be
like
above
good.
DDP.
No,
he
no.
broke his leg
He,
real nasty,
He
and that was
did.
Oh my
nasty.
god, that's one of the worst injuries ever, man.
Yeah, it was bad.
And watching it live, I was like,
And
oh
it's
god.
just a
Not good.
freak
oh,
thing too, because he just
Yep,
landed. Oh,
he
oh,
Well,
just came off the top rope.
it
I
was
mean,
very
off the
similar to
second
Joe
rope.
Theismann.
Yep,
yep.
Yeah.
just
well,
landed exactly the
it,
way he needed to break it the way he did.
Hmm.
I know everybody like it's kind of fun to shit on Sid,
I'm
especially
not shitting on him.
nowadays. But I remember back in the day, he was naturally charismatic. Like,
Oh, he was another one
when
of those guys that was just a natural heel.
Yep.
well, no, even as a face, when he turned face against Shawn Michaels and became Psycho Sid, he was over like a motherfucker.
Oh, he's crazy over
So
because he had that
yeah,
intensity.
Yeah.
yeah. It just he has yeah he everybody's made the joke that he would rather play softball than wrestle half the time. And hey, you got to do what you love. But every time that dude walked out, fans went nuts for him.
Oh,
Like,
the time that he
it,
was there, he was one of the biggest friggin' people though ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, he
Um,
was and in fact, if he had not, his career had not been derailed a little bit and he hadn't been injured, he's the original Goldberg.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
and wasn't he one of the skyscrapers?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
him
And
and Mike was Spivey, and then before that was it Callis?
I'm
believe
pretty
so.
sure it was Undertaker, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
Mark
Cal's.
Calaway.
Well, it was Cal's first, and then Spivey later.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't have much opinion. I think he's a good big guy in the wrestling. I don't know. I agree with Edwin. I think he's too high here. Although Rob Van Dam, I think is about perfect in the list, though. Edwin,
Yeah,
I'd say.
yeah.
Yeah,
DDP needs to be in like at least like the top 30.
especially for all the work he's done with helping guys
Yeah,
get off drugs, his yoga classes, which I know sounds weird for wrestlers, but he's helped a lot of guys get
I
their
use
backs
It
that.
and knees
worked.
straight.
I
He-
used it for a while. It works.
Nah,
Yeah, it
it
does.
helped me keep my knees.
He's a good human.
Yeah.
Diamond Dallas Page is a good person. Anyway, let's continue on here. Oh my God, dude.
Oh man, 3 of my favorites right there, man.
So you
Uh,
have Arn Anderson. Arn
Yep.
Anderson, obviously of Four Horsemen fame, the best second in the history of the business. He knew
Yep.
his job was to make Rick look as good as he could and protect Rick at all costs, and that's what he did. And he made lots of money doing it.
And a
I
good
think
booker.
Arn is probably. I mean, I don't know if this list is supposed to be in order or if they're just listing them. I'm assuming
it's
it's supposed
odd.
to be in
It
order.
is it's supposed to be in order, but it's odd because Arn's still
I
working AEW.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say Arn should be a little bit higher personally. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion. Mainly just because he was part of the Four Horsemen, which is one of the most
Sure.
important. And not just a part, he was like the guy
A
besides Ric
mainstay.
Flair.
Yeah.
In the Four Horsemen. But Arn Anderson in the ring, fantastic. On the mic, even today he cuts great promos when he's cutting on
Yep.
mic.
No, I saw him cut
The
a
dude
promo the
gets
other
it.
day. Yep.
Yeah. Dude gets it.
Yeah, he
You're gonna
does.
fish a man's eye out.
Yeah, exactly. He always talking about cutting, pulling eyes out. I don't know what he's on about that.
Well, the one time he just pulled out he made a hand gesture with like a gun and just talked about blowing a guy's brains out right in front of God and everybody on national
He is
TV.
a bit dark.
muscle to his head and you pull the trigger.
Yeah. But to be fair, AEW is trying to be more adult and bloody, and it is trying to be. But Arn Anderson is very valuable person to wrestling history. To be fair, now Jushin Liger, is this one of Muto's characters?
No, Jushin Thunder Liger is he was Rey Mysterio before Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
So
he is
he's
probably the most influential wrestler ever born.
So
Yes.
he's a luchador.
Well, he's a Japanese wrestler.
He's a Japanese
he's
version
Japanese.
of a luchador. Yeah,
Okay,
he's like, I put it this way: he's on, in my personal opinion, he's on the same level as Keiji Muto and Inoki.
Yes.
As far as influence, he's one of the greatest high flying wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, I don't know him. I know Muto and respect Muto quite well.
He and Muto had amazing matches together.
Well,
Yes.
the thing is though, Muto to this day shows up on Japanese TV all the time. He's a Japanese icon. I've never seen this guy.
He stays around wrestling.
Yeah, he went through. Yeah, he doesn't really go outside of the wrestling industry. But he's also had a couple different versions of himself. He had Kishin Liger, which was a darker version of the character, and but yeah, as far as like you ask, like I said, man, the guy's legacy is set, and he just recently retired, like I think it was like 2-3 years ago.
That's cool.
So,
I'll have to go check him out because I love good. Is he a good?
Dude, check out the creation, like his match against, I think it was against Muto when he debuted the Kishin Liger persona.
Oh, I see. So then therefore he's a mat wrestler then, if he's wrestling Muto. All right.
No, their styles clash, but they were awesome in the ring together.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
cool.
one of those wrestlers who could do everything.
Yes.
He's kind of that. He was probably, him and the Dynamite Kid were probably the two prototypes of that they can do it all.
Oh,
everything you want to fly, you want to get on the ground, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Liger, I mean that when I say as far as influence when it comes to in ring, I don't think there's anybody who's had a bigger influence than Jushin Thunder Liger. Honestly,
I don't know. Inoki might be the only one who's close as far as in that area, but yeah, like I said, he's on that level, and everybody knows who Inoki is.
He invented or debuted or created or what you want to call it so
many moves
that are now just common that everybody does.
Oh my god,
it's ridiculous.
The Liger bomb.
So like, yeah, the Liger bomb, which is just a sit out power bomb where everybody's seen it. They sit out and they lay their legs over their shoulders. That he made that. He created that.
Well, they're constantly renaming maneuvers.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Thunder was right though. Like you go through like half the wrestling moves that exist. He created them.
Well,
Yeah, he
fair
was the
enough.
first to do them.
I'll have to go check him out then. Edwin says Arn was one of the wrestlers who can make a match look like a real fight. Yes, he was.
Yes.
Yes,
And he
Arn
because
looked
is,
like the type
he
of
was a
guy
real
who could
guy.
fight.
yeah, he was a good
Yeah, he
worker.
looked like the guy you see at a bowling alley.
Dude,
Everybody just knows. You're like, nah. You
Speaking
don't
about what's
That's
his name? Sid Vicious. The freaking fight between Arn and Sid Vicious
know. Yes.
is legendary. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
like Sid's like he's freaking killing me, man. He was stabbing him with a pair of scissors.
True. No, he definitely would fall into the ECW type quite easily. But
He
one
would
thing,
have done it.
well, no, Arn could fight quite stiff. To be fair, but
Yeah.
one thing I do know because I've seen him fight so many times in my life. This dude has saved many a wrestler's ass in the ring.
Oh, he's one of the best in ring guys you could put.
Yes,
Like I would
and
put him on par with like as far as like as being safe and like being able to take care of people. AJ Styles. He's on the same level.
Styles or
Yep.
Bret Hart or
Yeah.
oddly enough, Undertaker.
Yep.
Dude,
Undertaker
Undertaker
is really
protected
good at
people
protecting
so
people.
many times.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
only person he ever hurt was himself.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, no, but you wouldn't expect a big man to be that. But Undertaker protected a lot of
Yeah.
people, dude. So as rough and stiff as he was, Arn actually was always looking out for him.
He was stiff when he had to be.
Yeah. I mean, don't pull a receipt on Arn Anderson for God's sake.
God. He might actually shoot you. You need to calm down over there.
Yeah, right. You have to go back to the butcher to find someone more terrifying, really. But anyway, well, maybe he'll show up. Owen Hart, all the Harts are very professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
They're a family of professional wrestlers, all the way from dad all the way down to the new one that's running around here. I think it's a daughter running around too. But the Harts are pure wrestling family that have managed to not get themselves drugged to death in general. Now, Owen's death was accidental. There's no one to blame. I mean, he must have done something wrong because we've seen many people fly across the ring using those rip lines. But it's unfortunate. But he was a very solid wrestler, as all the Hearts are. And he was really good wrestler. The only thing I'd say is, and I'll let you guys have your opinion, but I think the only problem was for Owen, his brother was wrestling at the same time.
Yeah, his brother was just better.
Well, I mean, obviously Brett, having Brett there is it's gonna make your journey a little bit tougher. But
Mhm.
Owen was coming into his own. He was very quickly becoming his own guy and gaining a reputation as one of the best people in the wrestling industry.
Yeah, no,
just a genuinely good dude.
And he was also really good in the ring, very good
Yep.
at protecting people, a good
That's the
seller.
Hart legacy.
Yeah, no, the Hearts. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to take away from Owen. He's a great all around wrestler. I'm just saying Brett was there.
Well, and Owen left so soon. Like we don't
that's
know.
true.
I mean, he may become just as big as his brother, if not bigger.
That's fair.
But we never got that chance. But one thing I will add, though, man, the idea that no one was at fault with this is bullshit.
Well, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
Watch. There's an episode. There's an episode. Like, I don't like the show in particular, but there are some episodes on it that I think people should watch. Dark Side of the Ring, the one on Owen Hart, and the one on my brain just took a crap on me again. That episode people need to watch because he died because Vince wanted to cut corners.
And well, then that sucks. That does suck.
Yeah.
Because it's there's no reason to do that. Just be safe.
Yeah.
Or don't do it. Simple as
Especially
Yeah,
when you're
so
Vince
it-
McMahon.
Well, it was
Rich.
it was Vince's brain trust. So buck stops with Vince.
It does. But it was an absolute horrible tragedy. So
Yeah, and the thing, the creepiest thing about it too is that as he was falling, he yelled for everybody else to get out of the way. So the last thing he thought about was protecting everybody else.
Yep. Well, the Hearts, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was just a good dude, and he taken way too soon.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. But all the Hearts are like that. One of the safest people you could possibly work with would be a Hart, Owen or Brett or any of them. Those guys
or
are
even
looking after
Natalia.
you, dude. Yeah, they're
Dude, Natalia, the women's division wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for her being
yeah.
around.
I mean, Papa Hart instilled in them,
Yeah.
the first thing we do is protect each other, obviously. And there's so many wrestlers that said they love. They talk about Brett more than Owen for obvious reasons, but they love working with Brett because he never hurts anybody ever.
Yeah. Well, that's
You know,
like in his matches against Shawn Michaels. He
yeah.
told him like even though the two of them freaking hate each other's guts, he said, "Listen, I want you to know that regardless of anything, I'm gonna make sure you're okay out there."
And so did Brett. To be fair, I mean, he's an asshole, but
Actually, Brett didn't. Brett said, "Yeah, well, I'm not gonna do the same for you."
yeah, but was that a work though? Was that a work?
Dude, you never. The problem is that today, because they've kind of buried the hatchet with everything, you don't know if it was or
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Well, because
So,
Brett
but
Michaels
I
in the
think,
ring is very safe. Let's be fair.
yeah. Well, I think he may have. I think he may
Calling
have
him Brett
said.
Michaels.
Yeah. I'm trying to help him out. Trying to help him out.
I think Brett said that he wasn't gonna, but I think Brett, regardless of what you want to think about, when he stepped into the friggin' the ring, he was pretty much a professional. So
One
No,
thing,
the
no,
idea
but-
that he was.
But to be fair, cocaine and ego don't go together well. Let's be fair.
one
Yeah.
thing Bret Hart is he has said repeatedly since his career ended abruptly is the thing that he's most proud of in his career is he never, at least not to his knowledge, hurt anybody except himself. He hurt himself
Yeah.
a couple times, but he never hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, to be fair.
Sasaki.
Kensuke Sasuke, Sasuke Kensuke. I don't know him.
Sasaki, yeah, he's
Sasaki.
he's another one of those big names.
He's from an area near me, though. That's not far
Mm-hmm.
away. I don't know. I probably do know who Larry is. It's Lex Luger, isn't it? It is. It
That's
must
Lex
be Lex. It
Luger,
looks
yeah.
like Lex Luger.
Yeah, it is Lex.
Yeah, I didn't know that was his name, though. That's interesting. You, sir, you should have got another name at birth. You should have, petitioned for that. But now, and of course, we have Van Vader. Now, this is interesting because I don't know the first guy, but the Lex Luger and Van Vader. These two guys are very, very interesting. Lex Luger was brought over from, we already mentioned it, was brought over from Vince McMahon's bodybuilding thing he had going on. And he brought, because he had to get rid of that because the whole steroid trials that were going on, he brought him over into wrestling to be kind of the new Hulk Hogan, and it didn't work out. Van Vader, I loved seeing him to come in the ring. Oh my God, especially back in the day when he wore that like elephant helmet with the steam coming out.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, I remember
dude.
when he debuted with that thing.
Dude, it was so awesome. I love Van Vader. But the thing is, as an adult, this is the stiffest motherfucker who's ever wrestled. He is ridiculously dangerous. Very dangerous. I feel bad for anyone that had to work with him.
What's
Yeah.
funny is
He's not the stiffest.
but I've watched him. I watched him in a match. I think it was somewhere overseas. Well, definitely was somewhere overseas. And the guy popped his eyeball out of socket.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And his eyeball
Yeah,
was
that
just
was Stan
hanging there.
Hansen.
Yeah.
Stan
Yeah, and
Hansen,
he
yep.
literally just has to take
And-
his thumb and push his own eyeball back in. I'm like, nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in Japan, Stan Hansen hit him so hard he popped his.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it
that's
the same thing happened to Sika from the
Yep.
and when he popped his eye back in, he screwed it because they had that long hair.
Yep.
The hair was behind the eye, so he had to pull the hair out from behind the freaking
Oh.
eye. Oh God!
Wrestlers, dude, wrestlers. Now,
Dude,
in my
I'm
life,
telling
I've
you.
actually popped 2 eyes out, not my own, other
Oh.
people's. Now, I
Oh.
have no clue what they did with that. Hopefully, they got it taken care of.
Pop it back in. That's
Yeah.
all you can do.
Yeah, but both the same way. I guess I don't, because I was a bouncer for a long time, and my job is not to pummel you to the ground. My job is to control you and calm you down, right? So,
Yeah.
what I would do a lot of times, especially with bigger dudes, I just get underneath the arm and I just lock them up around the head, right, and shoulders,
Yeah.
and just because I do have quite a bit of strength, and I can just kind of you feel that I'm not playing around, calm down, right? That's what I would do. But I guess when I do that, my right thumb goes stiff and sticks out. I don't know why, but it does. And a couple of and if they're sitting there struggling trying to get out, and I'm locking down harder and harder try to calm them down, when they're thrashing around like that, twice my thumb has gone into an eye and pulled it out. So it's a mistake on my part, I guess. I don't know why I
It's
do
easy.
that.
It's easier to pop someone's eye out than people think it is.
I guess so. Because I've
Yeah,
literally done it twice. I'm not, no joke.
yeah,
It's not wrestling. It's bouncing. It's a completely different thing.
yeah. But
But
that's a common thing in wrestling, though, man. Is they would fish hook someone's eye.
yeah, no, I think there's something that's going on with the muscle when you do that that stiffs the and a professional would be knowledgeable of it and lock it
Yeah,
down, right? But that's not Van Vader. No,
no.
no. Old Leon here, I don't know that I don't know that he's just mean. He could be. I think he's just he can't relax. I don't know what it is. But this guy is brutally dangerous. He's hurt
Well,
so many people.
he came up in New Japan before he was anywhere else.
No, that's not
So,
good.
and
That's probably why.
that's that friggin', strong style, hard hitting. That's the wrestling style that kills people.
Yeah.
And
So,
football player.
yeah,
Yep, combat sports.
and a football player. Yeah,
Yeah. Edwin says, well, they went to the bar stupid and got dumb. It's a serious bad choice. Yeah, and it is. But I felt bad about it, Edwin. I'm not interested in hurting anybody. That wasn't my job. I'm not that type. I've worked with plenty of bouncers over the years who were just assholes and enjoyed hurting people. That's not
yeah.
me, right? My
I would say,
job is to keep them safe, calm them down, and hopefully they'll learn something and come back better the next time. That's my job, and I've always looked at it that way. So any of the times where I've broken a finger or popped an eye or popped a shoulder, which is unfortunately happens in the job, I feel horrible about it. I don't get a kick out of that at all.
yeah. But as far as
Um,
their position on this list, I would switch places with I would switch both these guys with Scott Hall.
Oh, easy.
mm,
No, way
I
better.
think
I agree.
he should. This is further this is closer to where he should have been.
Yeah, but but Van Vader's gimmick was awesome. Let's be fair.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
Oh, yeah.
friggin' cool.
it's so cool, dude.
One-
Let's see. Oh no. Oh God.
whoa!
Okay. Oh God.
that's
What is
way
happening
Oh
low.
here?
God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
That is way
John's-
low.
why-
way
This whole 3
too
should be
high.
dropped up 20. What?
Yeah. That doesn't. Okay, let me see who the three above them.
Okay. Keiji
Nah,
Muto, fair enough.
Keiji
Goldberg,
Muto.
what?
Okay.
Big
No,
There's a lot
no,
of recency
Big Show.
bias
Goldberg-
there.
Goldberg probably deserves to be right around 30 just for as big as he was.
Yeah, no, he
but
was
these
way
guys
over
should not.
money.
Ray, Brock, and John should be above them.
Yeah, they should.
I don't even know. Listen, you will not find somebody who hates John Cena on planet Earth more than me, except for
Yeah.
maybe his ex-wife.
Ho!
Even I would say he belongs in the top 10. Like,
Yeah.
come on now. Like, come on now. Let's be honest.
Just as far as his influence, absolutely.
Yeah.
At least top 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray is like Ray made Lucha Libre mainstream.
Yes.
Okay. So this dude needs to be higher on this list too.
And Brock
Brock's,
is
Brock's one of the only people on this list that can actually beat everybody on this list.
Yeah, no, Brock's a
he's
real
Brock
deal.
Lesnar.
He's an incredible athlete. Even if you don't like John, his influence is important. And Rey Mysterio, he's it's freaking Rey Mysterio, dude. Yeah, no, I know that's true, Edwin. One of the things I used to do a lot that worked, if I could catch the situation quick enough, was if they are starting to throw, I'll simply get a hold of their arm and I'll thumb lock them. And you can apply a great deal of pain with a thumb lock. And that usually was enough to calm it down. But if things got too rowdy or out of hand, where I couldn't get to it quick enough, or someone was just too much attitude, unfortunately, things can escalate. But yeah, no, you're talking about mouth hooking or nose hooking. Those things are painful. But I usually did a thumb lock, and it was
Freaking
usually.
Haku biting off that dude's nose in Toledo.
Oh Jesus!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness
You talk
gracious.
about a real one, man. Oh my God.
Yeah. But anyway, John Cena, we've talked about him enough. Brock Lesnar, everyone knows he's very modern. Rey Mysterio, we've talked about. There's not much more to say. These guys are awesome. So, and important. Keiji Muto is certainly one of the more important
How could they
Japanese
not
wrestlers.
find a picture of
I
Muto?
have no idea because there's tons of them.
Unless there's an issue with I know Bushiroad has a big issue with letting people use media.
Well, use his WCW stuff then.
Yeah.
Or is just recently at the Hall of Fame. I'm sure they wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
at the Hall of Fame.
Was he masked or unmasked?
Uh,
Masked.
he was masked. Yeah, pseudo masked.
That's too
It's
bad.
that new.
Because
That's
he
new
went
one.
in as
Yeah,
the Muda. He went in as Muda,
I
not
get
Muda.
it.
as
I get
Muda.
it.
Yeah,
Because I
Yeah.
see him all the time on TV. Of course, no mask. He's just a dude.
yeah.
But Big Show. I like Big Show. He works really hard. One of the people I think that's very important for Big Show that got him to be able to do what he can do in the ring is Steve Austin.
Yep.
Steve Austin worked him so hard, right, for a big man. And I'm sure he's very appreciative of it.
He tells the story of they were working I think it was somewhere in Europe, and they were working together, main event, because obviously. And Austin was trying to get him over. He was trying to get him over huge. And the way he did that was he told him he was going to, obviously Austin was going to win the match, but he wanted him to kick out of the stunner. Not just once, not just twice, not even 3 times. He let him kick out of 3 stunners in a row before he finally put him down. He told him, just keep getting up and I'll keep hitting it. Keep getting up and I'll keep hitting it. And what he was doing was putting him over as a monster because, he's a monster. So it takes everything Austin's got multiple times his best shot to put this
Sure.
guy down. You're not
Yeah.
putting him down with 1 stunner.
Yeah,
That's
but
what he was
Yeah.
doing.
yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, on the mat, Austin worked his ass, dude.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
what I'm
good
talking
and
about.
good for
He was
Paul,
teaching him.
right? He was teaching him.
And,
Yeah.
and he, yeah, and he even talks about how, like, because he came up in that shitty system that WCW put together,
Yes.
and he said he got the friggin' to WWE, and he was like, I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't work for shit, and that's why he's like, and guys like Austin helped him learn.
Yep.
Yeah, the Captain Canada. His dad is Andre the Giant, according to Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Yeah, well, one guy's French, but
And he plays
Goldberg.
D&D.
Yeah, Goldberg. I agree with Edwin 100% on this. I've never been a big fan of him. If I want a big roid monster, I'd rather have a Ryback. To be fair, although he's
Ew.
way stiff though. But as far as visually, right?
Yeah, he was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
He
fair enough.
looked enough like Stone Cold Steve Austin and had enough presence to get himself over as this unstoppable destroyer.
Right.
And it worked. The
Is he still
experiment
working?
worked, and then they screwed it up.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Occasionally, yeah, if WWE wants to get a big pop, they'll bring him out.
Dude, he's gonna
once a year.
he's gonna be at All In.
Oh,
I
boy.
almost guarantee he's gonna be there, and I hate the idea of it.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But interesting there. For me, the best is Muto in this list here.
Yeah.
Oh God, Adam Copeland,
Be right back real quick.
Mhm.
Randy Orton, and Chris
Yep.
Jericho. Now, oh,
They
goodness
belong on the
gracious.
list.
They do. I just currently curious where they deserve to be. Randy, like I said, he is a quintessential wrestler. Fair enough. Conversation. There's not
Yeah,
much to say.
another of those guys where if you want to have a safe match, this is one of the guys you
Oh
want to
yeah,
have it with.
yeah. No, I agree 100%. Chris Jericho, another great worker in the ring. I just hate Chris Jericho.
Well, he's just he's incredibly full of himself, man. It's
Yeah,
just,
I just can't stand him. And I don't mean in the ring. I don't care about the kayfabe shit. I'm talking about out of the ring. This guy is so full of himself. He's so self-righteous. Anything that comes up that is an angle he can work in real life, he does. Right? If it's a BLM thing, he's on board. If it's something about transgenders, he's on board. Any angle he can get, he takes. And if he was a true believer, okay, fair enough. But he ain't. He's full of shit.
Well, yeah, because he'll go the opposite direction at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, at the drop of a hat. And but I can't take away his in-ring work or his mic work.
He's another product of the Hart family.
Yep,
So
he's legit. Yep.
You want me to give you something that you can at least say, "Oh, that was pretty cool of Chris to do." So because obviously he and Chris Benoit were friends.
Mhm.
After
and was the other
that,
one that episode of Dark Side of the Ring that I think people should watch.
After that happened, apparently Chris effectively took his son, his living son, and I think basically took him in or took him under his wing effectively.
Yeah.
He made sure he was taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, made sure he had everything he could possibly need, and helped to reunite him with his some
His aunt.
strange family. Yeah, his aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was because
So-
there was a bunch of like some family members were putting out rumors and stuff saying that she said she didn't want him because of his dad and stuff like that. And then Chris was able to. That was actually in that episode on Dark Side of the Ring where they talk about it, and they're like, and he helped bring them back together. So
Yeah, no, that's cool. And like I said, all his actual, on air stuff, I don't have a problem with at all. He's doing his job. But I just he annoys me in real life. But as far as his ring work, I mean, he's very, very professional. This guy up top though, why don't I know him?
that's
It's
Edge.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's his real name,
Edge.
Adam Copeland.
I
That's
didn't
one of his
know.
headshots when he was an actor. But
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Well, I didn't really care about Edge.
Well, that's like the worst picture they could have used for this.
Next.
yeah, it doesn't look anything like him.
Yeah, I'd never been a fan of Edge, and honestly, I missed most all his run anyway. Jeff
Well,
Hardy,
he was gone for a long time with a broken
yeah,
neck.
but cool.
Yeah.
He's popular. He's over. Rock on, you go, dude. Jeff Hardy, freaking train wreck of a human, unfortunately, because he's such a great
Yeah.
wrestler. But Jesus, Ricky the Dragon. I saw when I was doing the research this
God.
week, I saw some Legends match where he came out. Dude, he looked good and he was working. I was like, you're an old
Oh,
man.
dude,
You're kicking ass.
He's aged very, very well. Very well. In fact, when Ric Flair wanted to do that last match thing, which was a freaking train wreck, I don't know if you guys saw that. This is who he wanted to wrestle, and Ricky was like, "Dude, no, I'm not getting in the ring." He's like, Ricky was like, he literally told him, like, "I don't want to be in the ring when you die." So yeah,
Oh, wow,
Ricky.
that's
but,
rough.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah.
it's dude, Rick is in rough shape, like really, really rough shape. And he's in better shape now because he's kind of sort of taking care of himself and everything. He has no business being in that damn ring.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
He looked good though. He was moving good.
I didn't know Steamboat's real last name was Blood. That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome. Why didn't
Yeah.
you just go by that?
Yeah, no, that would have been good.
well,
But-
because of Vince.
Ah,
No, you gotta be something Asian. How about a steamboat? That's good shit.
That's a
I
very
think
Asian.
I think he got
Yeah.
I think he got Steamboat before that because
Yeah.
wasn't
Actually, yeah, I think it was
mistaken.
Vern Gagne. I think that gave it that to
Yeah,
him.
Ricky
Yeah,
the Dragon
because yeah,
Steamboat.
he was one of the AWA guys.
Yeah.
When I was
But,
a kid, I loved Steamboat, dude. Him and
Oh, dude,
Roddy Piper were my favorite.
His
Yeah.
trilogy of matches with Ric Flair, like they talk about there, the Holy Trilogy. That's, in my personal opinion, that's the best wrestling series ever.
well, you obviously don't know wrestling because Dave Meltzer doesn't agree.
Well, Dave Meltzer can suck
screw
the
yeah, screw Dave Meltzer. But,
Dude, I'm gonna
no,
tell you something.
Steamboat-
Listen, I listen to Wrestling Observer, but I don't listen to Wrestling Observer for him because he doesn't know shit.
But Steamboat
Well,
was
we'll
good,
get up to
good
Harley
ring
Race.
worker. Hardy, of course, is a phenom, is what he really is.
Yeah.
But Steamboat is awesome. Love him. Didn't get enough of him really. But we really, honestly, we need to talk about this man here.
There he
Oh,
is.
my God.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh my
Jesus.
God, look at this
Oh,
Bro,
Right.
those
yeah.
three right there,
All
those
right.
three should be in the top 10.
They should be. Andre, just for his presence and his contribution. Andre, there's not much to say. But Dusty and Harley, Jesus, dude. Talk about old school. Harley Race is very, very important. He should certainly be in the
Dude,
top
you-
10.
Um,
Dusty Rhodes has done more for wrestling than anybody other than maybe Vince McMahon.
You
I'm
know
gonna
what's
tell you something
amazing
right now.
about that Andre picture though?
Yeah,
Even
sure.
if you didn't know he was a giant,
You could tell.
just looking at that picture, it's like that's got to be one big son of a bitch.
No, he is
Yeah.
a big dude. And I actually was at a wrestling match when I was young, and he and Hulk Hogan walked right past me. It was very interesting. Because I didn't know. I was like in the 8th or 9th row, and I was right on the edge. I didn't know they were going to using that path to come to the ring. So I got to see all the wrestlers. Literally, I was on the end, so they were walked right next to me. I could have touched them, right? It was interesting because Hulk was not that much bigger than me. Not really.
Mhm.
I was kind of looking him in the eye. Well, I wasn't, I was happy. I was a fan, but I wasn't being an asshole. But I could look at him in the eye. I mean, he's bulkier than I was. But frickin' Andre, dude, it wasn't his height. He continued
mass.
past me for 5 minutes. He's just
He was
ridiculously
a walking wall of a man.
thick. It's insane. I mean, he walked right past me, dude. I'm a big dude, and he was 3 times my
Yeah.
thickness. 3
Dwarf you.
times at
Think
least.
about this, man. When in his heyday, he could come off the top rope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yep.
scary shit is what that is.
That's
Uh,
ridiculous.
and don't pull a receipt from Andre, because the way he
Oh
gives
my
them
God,
back is sticking that
dude,
gigantic freaking cucumber-sized thumb up your ass. Right?
dude, that the story that
Seriously.
was it Jake Roberts was on Joe Rogan's podcast and he was talking about Andre. And he said that if Andre liked you, he liked you forever. If he hated you, he hated you forever.
Mhm.
And in his match with the and this is when he had when he wrestled the Warrior, Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, that's when he was having all those back surgery and everything. This was towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
And they told Warrior, do not come out there and slam into him. He's like, let him work the match. So Warrior completely ignores them, comes running out to the ring like he does. He blows himself up before he even gets in the ring.
Great entry.
Jumps in and goes straight and hits him with a clothesline. And Andre goes, "Mm." And then he runs and he hits the ropes again and he comes back, hits him with another clothesline. And Andre goes, "Mm." Goes for a third one. Andre just sticks his friggin' fist out in front of him and pops him right in the face.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he's like, he said, friggin' Warrior ran head first into his fist.
Yeah.
And just was like, and almost basically knocked himself out.
Yeah. No,
But
no.
he said
I mean,
Andre was not the dude to mess with.
well, Ultimate Warrior was the one-trick pony of one-trick ponies. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, his entrance was freaking epic. Epic. One of
Yeah.
the best entrances of all time. And the only person I put above him would be, and I'm not talking about theme song, I'm just talking about entrances, maybe Undertaker, because that dude knows how to crawl up a freaking, walkway. But Warrior had a great entrance. That was his thing. But he was horrible
Yeah.
in the ring, dude. It was just a hot mess. But he was over.
I want
He
to
was
talk
big over.
about Harley
Yeah.
Race real quick because Edwin said something over here
Yeah, no,
about
Harley is important.
Harley was a tough guy. Harley was not only a tough guy. I think if you look up "tough" in some dictionaries, there's a picture
There's
of
a
Harley
picture
Race.
of him, yeah.
Anonymous. This dude, there's infinite stories of how you shouldn't mess with Andre just because he's an actual literal human giant freak. Harley, you shouldn't mess with because he's an actual freak of another kind.
He's
And
a
he was
mean son of a
just-
bitch.
He's mean.
Just mean.
Don't-
He had
he
this
really
meanness in him.
Yeah.
Again, was it Ric Flair was just on Joe Rogan's podcast? Anytime there's a wrestler on there, I'll go and watch it.
That's true, Devin.
And he was telling stories about Harley. He was like Harley Race is one of the toughest dudes ever. And he said that one of the things about Harley that people didn't know is that he got into a car accident and he almost lost his arm.
Wow.
And he had a metal rod inserted into his arm that ran from his wrist almost to his elbow. So if he punched you, it was like getting hit by a freaking tire iron.
Right. Yeah.
And he would basically, and he smoked like constantly. And Rick said like he would walk in to like a bar and they would back in the day when they would play pool, they would put quarters on the table for like the next game. Harley would be like, I'm gonna go play pool. And walk over, take his pool stick, knock all the quarters off the table and say, I'm next. You got a problem with that?
Yeah, no.
And if they did, the first thing punch he threw was that arm with that metal rod, and he would knock the shit out of him.
Yeah. Now he's a mean son of a bitch, Harley Race. But he's important because he brought us into the modern age. And Dusty Rhodes did as well. Dusty Rhodes is a very interesting character because he called himself the American Dream, which I find it odd that his son is calling himself the American Nightmare. But the American Dream, I get it. And he was beautiful and stuff. He wasn't beautiful. He was not beautiful at all. But Dusty Rhodes is so important, dude. So
my
much
God.
of his early work and stuff that you don't even talk about is his organization behind the ring, how many wrestlers he worked into being what they were, not only just training wise, but also their gimmicks, right?
Yeah.
So many of
Was
these
it-
guys, right? And because Vince McMahon is a dick, okay? And
He is.
Vince McMahon gets an idea in his head, you can't get it out of his damn head, and he'll put it on you, like Tyrus, right? Who's on the Fox show now. He was
Mm.
in there as the Funkasaurus, right?
Hmm.
And if initially he saw it, well, he saw it as a punishment, then but he saw how the kids react. He ended up really loving it. But Vince was the reason that happened is because Tyrus was one of the jokey types in the locker room, right? And Vince just thought he was funny because they were working a dark, bestial character type of run with him. And right at the drop of a hat, Vince was like, "No, no, no, let's make him a funny guy. Make him a funny guy. I want to see him dance. I like dancing. Make him dance." And he
Yeah.
was just absolutely obliterated by what was happening. He felt like it was a punishment, but it was Dusty who came in, talked him down, said, "Look, and he went out with him. He danced with him. He worked the whole promo stuff up with him because the kid had been working his ass off in the training center, right? So that wasn't the
Hmm.
issue. But Dusty worked him up and got him out there. And to be fair, whether you like the Funkasaurus or not, with Brodus Clay, I think was the name they were going with.
Brodus
Yeah,
Clay and the
the
Funkadelics.
Funkadelics. The kids love that dude.
Yep.
And
And
it's what it's really for. So Dusty does a lot of that shit, and he doesn't get credit for it. He's very
I can't
important.
remember. Wasn't Dusty one of the founders of Cauliflower Alley Club?
I don't know.
Which is it's an organization that helps out wrestlers who aren't in the industry anymore, who have because a lot of them don't have their money anymore, or they got screwed out of their
I
money or
wouldn't be
whatever.
surprised. That
Yeah,
sounds like something
they are.
they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's but yeah, it's like a charity organization. I think he was one of the people that helped found it.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me because that's the type. He's like DDP. He's that
Yeah,
kind of guy. He looks after and he helps people in the industry, and he's done so much. You've seen so much of his influence and not even realized it, right?
yeah,
Well,
He
Dusty,
should be in the
it's
top
funny
10. I don't know why he's here.
because we were talking about like speed and believability and stuff. And there was a clip on Twitter the other day. I don't remember who he was wrestling. Might even been Harley. I don't know. But it was just like a I don't know 10-second clip of one of his matches of Dusty firing up because he was always the consummate babyface. He's
Yeah,
firing up, and the way this guy was moving, the speed, the intensity, the intention behind his movements, even though he was dancing around and being goofy, when he went for a hit, when he went for a strike, it felt like he was actually trying to hit this guy. And the
yeah,
way, just everything about it, from the way Dusty was moving to the way the opponent was moving to the way the ref was moving to the way the ropes were moving, everything was so much more energy than what we get out of most matches and most wrestlers today.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
say it all the time, Chester, and I stand by it. Pro wrestling is at its best when it feels the same as a cowboy movie fight.
Yep.
yeah.
That's what it should
No,
feel like.
fair enough. And his
Oh
rope
well,
work was
dude.
really good. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Like back in the day, like even though he was never a svelte dude, he could move, man.
No, he
Yes.
And
could.
and and, and
Yeah,
and the best thing about and again, one of those guys, like I put him in the same league as William Regal. One of those wrestling minds that just understands every aspect of the business, the psychology, what you like how to feed off the crowd, how to feed the crowd. Just the in-ring psychology. The guy was at his best.
yeah. Well,
And
no.
like I said, the best match I remember was him versus the Funks.
Yep.
Yep.
Him,
Oh yeah,
him, him
fair.
versus
No,
Dory Funk Jr. Holy
that's
shit!
true. There was good stuff with that. Now I do believe I did see him in a match with Harley Race or someone like Harley
Oh, he
Race.
had a couple of
Um,
them. He had
um,
a couple of them in the '70s and the '80s.
Yeah, no, and one, you get that kind of standard ring movement where they're crisscrossing, bouncing off of the ropes, right? That kind
Yep.
of that just running back and forth type of stuff. And Dusty's a master of that, dude.
Mhm.
Bumps and flips and bounces, just that kind of, you'll see them do that occasionally where they'll just start bouncing off the ropes against each other and running and crisscrossing across the ring. Dusty was really good at that. I am getting on my time, so let me go through this real quick. Of course,
Yep.
Antonio, obviously important.
Yeah.
We have Nick. He looks awful familiar. Who is he?
Nick
Nick
Bockwinkel, yeah,
Bockwinkel.
he was
I wouldn't put him that high, but yeah.
I wouldn't either,
Huh.
but he's one of those guys.
How is Roddy
Piper
not in the top 10? That doesn't make any sense. How is Warrior that high? Are you kidding me?
Warrior should be down in like the 40s.
Yes, he should be. Roddy should be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler, I'm fine with that. Ravish and Rick Rude. This
He should
guy,
be he should be in the top Probably in the 40s, if anything.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's a bit
I would put
high,
him
but
down in like the low 40s.
he
Yeah.
was really good with the charisma. Kurt Hennig, absolutely.
Dude, Rick Rude was much better in the ring than people realize.
No, he was. He's
Yeah.
nothing. I have nothing
Yeah.
against Rick Rude. But Kurt
Yeah.
Hennig, yes, dude,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Another guy
One
whose
of the
career
best
got
workers.
cut too short.
Yeah,
You know what I was talking about with that energy thing right there. He had it.
Oh
Yeah.
my God!
He
And
just,
his mat work, his technique,
Yep.
his mic work, dude, Mr.
Yep.
Perfect. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, dude. This guy
You know,
was.
Oh.
it's kind of weird. It's just not just his energy. Kurt was such a ridiculous athlete
Yeah.
for his time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I
most,
know
most
some
of the-
people may not
Go ahead.
think about it with Dusty as well. Dusty, people forget, he was in all kinds of sports growing up, and
Yeah.
was a football player before he got into the business. But those two, they just had such an athleticism where they made things look easy, and probably Kurt more so than anyone. Where
Kurt is amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing wrestler. I'm really on my time. I got to go,
Go
unfortunately.
for it, man.
But Steve here, of course, Sting. Yeah,
Stinger.
fine. You know, he is important for WCW without question. Chris Benoit, glad to see they didn't omit him. I think he's way too high, but I do think he deserves to be on the list. Eddie, I think, is closer to where he should be than Chris.
Yep.
Yep.
I think if Chris hadn't happened, he might have been ranked even higher, because in my generation, he was one of the more imitated wrestlers. Like
He's amazing.
Yeah, he was.
Yep. Everybody will say, yeah, he wasn't great on the mic. He didn't have to be. He had the right gimmick, the
did.
Crippler or the Wolverine, whichever one you wanted to call him, where he was that guy who knew when he got in the ring he was going to kick your ass. And
Yeah, no, I agree. And
he-
these
and
two
he
guys
did
were
it,
good
and-
buddies and two bad tragedies as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
They came up in Japan too, didn't they?
Yeah. Chris was Pegasus Kid, and Eddie was not Tiger Mask. What was it?
Black Tiger.
Black
Black
Tiger, I
Tiger.
think.
Yep.
And they hated each other at first.
Yeah.
They legitimately hated, but then they became best friends.
You know, it's sad what happened to both of them, and
Yeah.
I am going to stick to that. I know people hate Chris, and I get
Yeah.
why, but I think it's sad more than anything. But
Yeah.
Eddie was more sad for me. He had one of the best smiles in wrestling, dude. And I'm not going to get into losing one smile either. Okay, Kurt Angle,
He's coming. I'm sure.
genuine Olympic gold athlete. This dude's ridiculously good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously.
That's
Triple
about
Oh
right.
my
H,
God! Look at that picture.
I know,
Oh,
right? It's not
jeez.
good.
Hunter,
but,
Chandler, and Hogan there.
Where did they find that picture?
It's bad, right? But Kurt Angle's the real deal. Of course, Triple H here is he's very important. Because
It's the worst picture I've ever seen.
it is,
of
but
him.
he's all about wrestling. I think he's important for the future of wrestling. To be fair, Dwayne, fuck off. Steve Austin,
Dwayne.
fine.
Wow, Steve Austin at 7. Holy fuck
But
you!
Dwayne at
Wow.
8,
Double
go to
fuck
hell,
you.
dude. Shawn Michaels, fine. He is the complete package. Anybody want to put anything in? I'm past my time. I'm just trying to get through it
No,
here.
we're good.
No, go
Um,
ahead. Just go
yeah,
for it.
Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. Because he's a leader. I'm not a big man fan. I like the mat workers, but this dude is a leader in the locker room. He's important. He's also incredibly safe worker. Macho Man. We already talked about. Bret Hart should be number one. Hulk Hogan should certainly be here, although I don't think he should be this high. But his pop was so much though. And
No,
of course,
he
Ric
deserves
Flair.
that spot.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I don't know if I
and-
put him 2 though. But
Number
he
one
deserves
should
it.
be, in my opinion, number 1 should be Austin, and then number
Mm.
2 should be Flair. Number 3 should be Hogan. My
Uh,
favorite though is Savage. My personal favorite.
Sure.
I would put Austin. I would put Austin too. I think Flair just had too much influence over so many other people.
Fair enough,
More
but for me, Bret Hart is number 1.
Yeah.
Any of those guys would work.
Fair
In all
enough.
honesty.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, no argument.
And yeah, those guys are Mount Rushmore regardless of what order you put them in.
It's true. Just to before I get off here, I have to say that my son's was able to see Rick fight at the end of his career, and my son's name for him was the best ever. He called him Grandpa. Woo!
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's like that's like they said on that last podcast he was on. He's the only person who has a sound attached to his name.
He does. Well, it's
Yep.
like Hacksaw, right?
You could say Ric Flair and hold the mic out, and everyone's gonna go woo.
Anyway, I'm way past my time. I really gotta go. But it's too bad. It's fun. I love talking wrestling. I'm kind of wondering if we want to do a follow up next week and kind of get into
I
some
love
of the
your
other
idea.
aspects.
Hey, if you guys want to talk more wrestling, man, I do a wrestling show every Tuesday, 7 p.m.
Well,
Oh,
I don't have those options, but okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wrestling Council, check it out.
Oh yeah. I know a lot of guys do. I'm glad you came in for it, Ben, for a while as well.
Yeah.
I know he's got some problems, I guess, but I would have loved to have Tess in here. That guy
Yeah.
is a freaking encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's got some more. I don't know what he keeps doing shit. But whatever. Whatever, dude. Relax, man. But I like Tess. I just wish he would, you know. But anyway, thank you all very much for coming in. It was a lot of fun. I think next week we'll do some more. There's still plenty to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I did have a segment where I want to talk a little bit about the history, how we got here.
it's a long one.
Yeah,
Oh
but
God.
I will do it succinctly, you know.
Oh boy.
But I can do that. You know, I'm capable. So yeah, we'll continue this part 2 next week. Because
I
I
like
think
it.
there's a lot more to talk about, especially when
I'm
One thing let's do next week. I want anybody who's going to be in here because I'm going to be here unless something happens. So me and Chester will both be here. I want to know your favorite matches and your favorite matchups. Like, give me like your top
Oof.
three. What are your favorite? Like, what was your favorite three matches and your favorite matchups? Like guys you like to watch work together.
Bruno
cool.
Santana and The Undertaker. It was the best ever.
This guy.
Anyway,
All right. I'm just glad I was able to jump in for once.
yeah, no, dude, please come in. You know you're always welcome. But we'll
Yeah.
continue this part 2 next week because there's plenty more to talk about and it's fun. There was some stupid Hollywood junk that happened this week, but you know there always will be. So we'll check you out later. Of course, in 2 days, I have Drone Recorder Ultimate Edition, and then of course this week's. Oh no, excuse me. We have Bugbear's Basement Continue Umbral. This week's Drone Recorder Ultimate Edition. I can't do. They probably will do something, but I will be back next week for that. Other than that, thank you very much, Bob. Thank you, Grimlock. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody in the chat as well. And Thundera, take us the hell out of here.
Let's get out of here, Chester. I like this one. This is a good one. The heart of darkness is constant. Evil's face changes, never its nature.
Namaste, but I think next week we should just simply play Undertaker's theme. Yeah. Later,
I like
everybody.